I think they have budget discussions.
Right. Good morning, everyone. Can you please take your seats? Good morning. The May 8th Board of Directors meeting is called to order. First, I'd like to ask our interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish law in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you're in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Buenos días. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, globo terráqueo y seleccione Spanish. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay Digueño, the Luceño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now please stand and join me in the flag salute. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michael, can you please confirm quorum?
We have a quorum, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And before we move on to non-agenda public comments, I'd like to propose a change in the order of the reports we're going to hear today. So for clarity and continuity of discussion, it makes a lot more sense to hear item 5 before item 4, as the budget amendment in item 5 is partially reflected within the proposed 2027 program budget in item 4. So let's now move on to a non-agenda public comment. How many do we have, Michael?
Thank you, Chair. If you're online, please raise your hand now. And it looks like we have 3 in person, Chair, and we have 4 online. So for the purposes of the commenters, for the purposes of civility and orderly meeting, we kindly ask that you refrain from using loud, threatening, profane, or abusive language. For our board policy, the amount of time allowed for each verbal public comment is determined based on the number of agenda items, the complexity of those items, and the number of persons anticipated to offer comment. This allows us to hear from as many people as possible to complete our business while we still have a quorum. Based on those factors, the chair has determined that for today's meeting, each member of the public will be allowed 2 minutes for their comments. So we will start with Truth, followed by Cesar Javier.
Anyone who plays with fire is going to get burned. SANDAG policy 004, section 4.2. Each board member and alternate occupies a position of public trust that demands the highest moral and ethical standards of conduct. Public officials who dox public speakers or critics, maliciously releasing private information, face California Civil Code section 1708.89 that allows victims to sue if their private info is shared with the intent to cause harassment, injury, or death. AB 1979 allows victims to sue in civil court. So what am I getting at? Right after the May 1st SANDAG meeting ended, when I was the only public speaker in attendance, I was talking to 3 SANDAG employees, including Daniel, about sound issues, when at 10:54 a.m., the coward, Manuela Palomaguire, and her staffer, Kyle Lavelle, for the second time, intentionally used the public exit to intimidate me. She interrupted our conversation to say to my face, "Have a nice day, redacted name," publicly doxing me in front of 3 public employees in a public meeting room by using my private given name instead of my public meeting name and chosen identity for the last 4 years. Of course, Manuela should not know my given name, as I don't ever talk to her. I asked the employee, "Holy crap, did you hear what she just said? She just tried to intimidate me in front of you. She just tried to dox my name." After that, at 11:10 a.m., I recorded an immediate reaction vlog in the SANDAG lobby for evidence, which Mario saw in the background, and which I'm going to upload by tonight. Times and names are accurate because I have the full surveillance video of the incident, which is where I got the photo you all have a copy of. Manuela verbally attacked me unprovoked, doxing with clear malice of forethought, putting my life in jeopardy, knowing of my whistleblower connections, as publicly reported in Equal and Times, harassing and retaliating against me for my opposition to her corruption with clear abuse of authority. But just like Manuela had to finally pay her property tax bills thanks to me, she's going to have to pay me damages too. And unfortunately, you here at SANDAG get to be tied into it. Manuela is 47 years old. When do you think she's going to grow up and stop going to court? You know? What a fascist. That's why nobody in IB likes her.
Next is Cesar Javier, followed by Purita Javier.
Request that my wife speaks first.
Okay. Purita Javier, followed by Cesar Javier.
Thank you, SANDAG.
Thanks, sir.
Start.
Good morning to everyone. We wish to live longer. I am Purita Javier and my husband to join you, brothers and sisters, to work together and plan for a healthy, safe, and clean neighborhood. We are hurt and live in fear because we have been exposed to ceramic scale emission, poisoning the air we breathe in a residential loan community. For 5 years, we have been voicing our problem, but to this day, the city, APCD, county, SANDAG, elected officials ignored and neglected to bring the hazardous home business to rightful resolve, that is abate it and for move to a safer state away from humans. We see young Sandigans participants in this prestigious school, Eastern CPG. We are in our twilight years and we have right and the privileges to enjoy life in our property. We must uproot the causes of rapid aging and even disease accompanying it, such as cancer found from A to Z and to young
Next is,
men
thank you.
and
Your time has
women
expired. Next is Cesar Javier, followed by
our-
Andrea Ebbing online.
Yeah.
We will consistently participate in governance. We fend for ourselves, gasoline, food, for our clothing to be presentable from our own pocket as pensioners. This is one of our community issue. At 5238, a home business which is not supposed to be in a residential zone. In short, our city elected officials, from the mayor down to the janitor, with 47 departments, I could only say they ignore, they neglect because they do not have the human and health department who is or which is supposed to be focused on the second element of urban planning we call human or man. Why is it so? Why, Sir Orozco? Why, Madam Chair? It's in here. It's only 1/5 of the 5 elements considered by urban planners, by political leadership. 5. And thank you, we have SANDAG to focus on mobility and circulation. Simply, that is the area of responsibility which SANDAG now is trying to project. Adequate, timely, efficiently, and the simplest way to provide us mobility and circulation. Sir, we asked you, what mobility and circulation could we use?
Thank you.
Clean
Your
up
time has
Tijuana.
expired. Next is Andrea Ebbing online, followed by the original draw.
Hi, this is Andrea Ebbing, and today I want to talk to the board about fraud, waste, and abuse. I'm calling from the courthouse across the street on another falsified charge from our failed district attorney, who, as a numeric quantifier, is destroying San Diego with so many falsified cases, so many falsified charges. She's ruining people's lives through her many nefarious initiatives, but also through Prop 36. As these people who are being stuffed into detention facilities like sardines and then dying right in front of everybody for Prop 36, they're now on a 16-week wait list for even treatment. So by the time they get to treatment, they've already detoxed, they're already probably sober, and then they're going to get into those facilities, and then they're going to become drug addicts again because those facilities give them drugs, right? And they body broker and they do all these crazy things. But most of all, they lose their homes. They lose their ability to provide for themselves. They become depressed. They become dependent. They become fearful. They lose their children. They lose their lives. They commit suicide. I mean, everything that's tied to it ties to homelessness. It ties to addiction. It ties to the behavioral health issues and mental health and all these things that are taking place. So, you know, if you don't listen to me as a victim of this complete morbid terrorist animal, but more of just an executive that also has 20 years of executive leadership and driving revenue and profit, you know, I wouldn't run the city like the mayor, cut everything, burn it all down, and then make everybody pay for it. Hell no. Drive revenue, drive profit, drive EBITDA. But we can't do that when we have a cancer like Summer Stephan in the district attorney's office. So I implore you to please make a change. Thank you.
Next is the original draw, followed by Blair Beekman.
The integrity of this board and the board's plan. This is not going to stand.
Go ahead, original draw.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, yes. The County of San Diego and the City of San Diego are compromised, and I'm pretty much sure that the rest of your cities are as well. If we can't do basic meetings 101 type of things like having a quorum, then you guys can't be trusted to do business because you're doing business illegally when you don't have a quorum, yet you continue meetings. And when we have people like Puta Paloma who sit there and flip people off, try and intimidate people, actually give people nasty looks who have nothing to do with anything, just like I'm saying hello in the meeting and she looks back and gives people nasty looks, which gives people a bad impression about your guys' ability to make sound mind decisions if you can't even, you know, be nice to the people that you represent. And you wonder why, you know, people are, you know, exposing things is because you guys are very negligent, nefarious, and doing things and racketeering with our money when you should be really making sure that that's not happening. But that's why people get into this business of government. And, you know, the County of San Diego didn't have a quorum a few weeks ago, yet continued the meeting. I took over the meeting, and yet they pretended like that didn't happen. 3 times in the city for the past 2 times this week, and a time the week before, there was no quorum, yet the city of San Diego continues to do a meeting and then throws me out and has the police escort me out because I am telling them that they cannot conduct a meeting without a quorum. And in one meeting, they actually did it 3 times. And now I feel like it's getting blatantly obvious that they're just doing it to say fuck you to the people, because you can't even take public comment if you're not all sitting at the dais. And so if we can't trust you guys to be able to do a meeting and run it legally, then you can't be trusted with any of our money or any decisions that you're making on our behalf.
Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Paul the Bold.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the meeting today. There's an important San Diego budget meeting today, so I won't be able to fully attend today's meeting, but you have really great items today, working on the Imperial Avenue bike issue, bike trail issue, bike path issue. Really good luck on the accountability on that. I mean, it's such an awesome idea. If we get the accountability right, and everything's in motion then, and we're doing exactly what we're building the future of SANDAG of. So thank you. Good luck. I wanted to comment. I missed last May 1st, last week's executive committee meeting. I just wanted to really emphasize it's just going to have to be my regular public comment at this time that I'm really concerned about the fare increases for monthly disabled. I think $5 in the first year and $3 or $2 in the following year is too much. I hope we can do it in smaller increments to a $28 total in 2 years. And I know you got many plans for how people can alleviate and could be subsidized, which is interesting and workable, but there's an accessibility issue that I'm concerned about, and how accessible will that be to those who are not the chosen few, who know how to look for the program. And I know that's important to build good community, to find the steps to do that. But I'm just wondering, is that accessible enough? And I'm worried. And so I think there should be a smaller increase over this fall, and to definitely think about it if you can, and put it off to 6 months if you can. We don't have to do any absolutes this June, is my hope. But just to say that, I hope can be of help. And thanks for your time.
Our next public comment is Paul the Bold, followed by our last public comment, Dr. Lee Brown.
Good morning, Paul the Bold. It is disturbing that the Wall 508 stabilization project change order was approved last meeting without any actual member discussion or justification as to why we're on the hook now for 4.1 additional million, like we're some kind of automatic piggy bank. It may be better for the county if SANDAG does not continue in its present form, but I'm not the first. The state suggested in 2001 that dividing the county into districts where the people could arrange them by geography or neighborhood would produce far better results. Then everyone in the county would be represented by a voting member, which they aren't now. And people would have to work together, not city by city. And all areas in San Diego would not have one representative, regardless of that area's individual opinion. The Board of Supervisors could chair the meeting, but not vote. That's a conflict of interest. I suggest 1, Northeast County. Yes, East County. 2, Southeast County, the desert. 3, Mideast County. 4, I-515 corridor agricultural. 5, Native tribes north. 6, Native tribes south. 7, Navy influence. 8, South coastal. 9, South inland. 10, San Diego Central. 11, San Diego North. 12, San Diego East. 13, Mid-County. 14, North Coastal.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our last comment is Lee Brown.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Brown. I want to thank all of you for your time, for your sacrifices, and for your service. I'm calling you about the Youth Opportunity Pass. I'm asking that you please extend it or make it a permanent part of the county's operations. It is so important to all of us, and not only directly, but indirectly, in terms of the cost of gas for parents transporting their kids, our environment. I won't take much of your time, but again, I'm so grateful to all of you board members, and all of our leaders for the time they take to serve us the way they do. Please extend that program. Please make it a permanent part of what we do here in San Diego, so our youth can get to their libraries, their schools, to events without having that additional cost. And I'm praying that you guys don't somehow make that something that kids have to pay for, because we are, the parents, and we just, everything is so expensive these days. With that, I will yield back to you all. But again, I want to say thank you for your service and for your sacrifices. I appreciate you. Goodbye.
That concludes our non-agenda public comment. Commenters, just a reminder to please ensure your hands are raised at the start of an item. That concludes our public comment, Chair.
Thank you. Any non-agenda member comments at this time? I see Councilmember Pikus.
I just want to reiterate what Blair Beekman said in open comment with respect to fare increases for disability, the disabled, and accessibility, because they've got a lot of burdens that we don't have, and a lot more expenses that we don't have. And if it's just a couple of dollars, and I see that we're being asked to approve a $1.5 billion budget, can we just, cut them a break on this by the few bucks? Because that's all. I realize this is probably MTS and nothing to do with SANDAG, but I still want to get my position out there. Thank you.
Thank you. I see nobody else, so we're going to move it over to Mario for his update.
Thank you, Chair. I'll go fast. First, we SANDAG attended. Personally, I also did the Washington trip with the chamber, the regional chamber. We met with members of the administration, or members in the different departments. We also met with congressional delegations. Subjects, I think a lot of emphasis on the surface transportation reauthorization bill that's going to be renewed. Hopefully, well, it's expiring, the existing one, at the end of this federal fiscal year. So there's a lot of discussion. That is the bill that funds about 35% or 40% of this agency. So it's very important that we put out there our needs, right? And this is the bill that basically funds all the DOT in the nation. Also, other subjects we discussed was LOSA and the Tijuana River. Housing was a big subject that was discussed, as well as Alta Mesa East. We also here internally kicked off our HR assessment. Again, this is the effort that we're doing on each of our departments. We're going and doing an assessment internally. Our internal controls director is heading that. We're assessing each of the departments and trying to find areas of opportunity for better improve our internal processes. We also attended the Tribal Working Interagency Technical Working Group. It was a great discussion that we had there on partnering with the tribes. Also, something that was very interesting this week, Antoinette and myself met with representatives from Uber regarding the future of automated vehicle service in San Diego. So it was very interesting discussion. There was left on the table the opportunity to partner for this region with Uber on some pilot projects. So hopefully those can happen. So that was very exciting. We're moving forward with the downtown stopover project on bringing in starting the designs of what we have in the existing property as you mandated us or requested us to do. So we're moving forward with that. We also kicked off the SR 94 corridor plan that's looking at how the entire corridor can be enhanced. Something very important this coming next week, we will be having, Caltrans will be hosting a public scoping meeting at Oceanside, South Oceanside Elementary School. And this is for the I-578 Interchange Improvement Project. Very, very important. This is the very foremost first step on what it would be the kickoff of the environmental document for that interchange. So that's very important. Again, meeting our commitments to all pursuing that project on the 78. Caltrans is wrapping up the 1578 connector environmental document. So now we're also with them kicking off the I-578 environmental document, major endeavors. And Bike Anywhere Day is coming in a few weeks. We already have 4,400 registrants. I heard that we have more pit stops already than the prior year, so that's very exciting. Thank you all for participating. We have some shirts for you on the tables. So when the meeting's over, if you so wish, go and pick up one. And I think that we'll have it at that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Oceanside Mayor, would you like to say something?
Right. I wanted to piggyback on the scoping meeting for the I-578. Very, very critical, important. I think the last meeting was 10 years ago or so. Something like that. But I do want to, I know Caltrans is here. I was wondering, I've been advised that the comment period has been extended. It was to be 30 days from the 29th, and now it's 30 days from the 13th.
I have here that Caltrans will be picking comments up to May 29th, but we can go and check on the exact timetable for that.
Right, so the 30 days from the 13th will be into June. So if I could just get a clarification on that, but I've been advised that. Because I believe that our city staff asked for the extra time to be able to comment.
It was extended at your request.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very good. All right. Seeing nobody else up on the board, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Mario, did you have an update on an item on consent?
Yeah, and item 3.3, we still want to pursue that. It's a very important item, but we will be coming with the dates that with updating the dates that are there, so we can make sure that we're fitting all the required timetables on the ordinance and our internal policies for postings on the newspapers, postings on the different transit agencies. So, you know, we did review the board policy, so we want to make sure that we're meeting all those timetables. So we will be updating the dates of when we're coming with the ordinance to TC, but we still want to pursue this item 3.3.
Okay, I see a number of people up on the board, but we're going to go to public comments first on the consent calendar. So, Michael, how many do we have?
If you're online and want to speak on consent, please raise your hand now. I'll give you the opportunity. And we have, on consent, we have 2 in person. It looks like we have 3 online. So commenters, please limit your comments to items on the consent agenda only. Please state the consent agenda item you are speaking to. If comments are not related to consent agenda, you will be asked to stay on topic. If you do not stay on topic, you will be muted. So first is Truth, followed by Cesar Javier.
Item 3.1 on the minutes. I'm not sure if this was the meeting where Terry had really great questions, but I know for sure that this was the meeting where I decided that Judy has great ideas, but is not allowed to speak more than once because otherwise she's going to jinx herself. I'm sorry. Item 3.2, I do not support AB 2002 or the regional early action planning to hijack our neighborhoods in favor of state-dictated, Soviet-inspired sack and packs. Item 3.3, no to a waiver of board policy number 29. No to allowing MTS and NCTD free reign on corrupt, unaudited programs that are bankrupting them, like the Youth Opportunity at Trafficking Pass. Because if parents can't even afford gas or a transit pass, how would they afford children? Just common sense. MTS does not even comply with Title V equity requirements as evidenced by their stupid copper shuttle that increased transit time for Santee and El Cajon residents. That entire project was a public input charade because they only heard the item after the tracks were already built, after they were built. Again, SANDAG fails to ensure our tax dollars are being spent sparingly and efficiently. Even though it has the ability to strip these transit agencies of perks, it should have to prove that it's actually earned. Plus, we know that this waiver is based on more lies because MTS wants increased fares to make up for their own union-controlled mismanagement. And this waiver is the only way to go about getting experimental fares that will definitely go past 12 months. Yet another lie from SANDAG and MTS. I don't care if you put a notice on it, it's still a lie. How about secure safety for transit riders? And then after crime stats significantly decrease from the current 484 trolley assaults a year, we could talk about paying for more security, not union jobs for unneeded projects. Item 3.4, I wanted to see the May 22nd and the June 12th meetings gone, false advertising. And why the delays on these draft agendas? Why is there no transparency on what is going on? Why are there last minute agenda changes like 5 seconds before? What are compliance matters? Sounds like more SANDAG drama on June 12th.
Next is Cesar Javier, followed by the original draw online. Please state the agenda item you're speaking to, please.
Yeah. 3.1. It was and is a living testimony of hard work. We trust you, thinkers. Thank you, SANDAG. With us as representative of 77 neighbors in our community under the leadership of District 9, aspiring to be mayor, Councilor Rivera, we could only say, yes, we approve it. 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, that's what you would like to hear. And that would limit my thinking and what I would be saying. These are processes which we pray and hope shall reap favorable expectation in the delivery of public goods. Simple, timely, a solution to an issue, efficiently and effectively. I would say yes, but hold on. Our wish and dream in every discussion should be focused not only on mobility and circulation, but man, the very essence of all this physical development, if we may humbly amplify to you, thinkers. We wish and dream that every move, every policy and implementation be focused on the sick and dying San Diegans since 1993. Correct, Mom, Vivian Moreno? I wish you will be the mayor there because...
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is the original draw, followed by Paul the Bold.
Yes. I'm going to be speaking on the minutes and the draft agendas. So as far as the minutes go, you guys were talking about the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry, and I would like to know what you guys are going to be doing that is going to mitigate the tunnels that are being dug underneath it right now. Unless that's something Mencho Mario has set up and ensuring, because it's like, if that's not a concern to you and you already know that the last port of entry had a super tunnel in there, then you're obviously complicit and, probably going to get kickbacks from the trafficking that's going to happen, be it drugs, humans, organs, who knows, right? And also, all of these bike lanes to nowhere. I'm wondering when we're going to stop spending millions of dollars on green paint for the bike lanes that go onto the freeway or to, like a nursery that isn't open to the public, all of these things. We need to really be making sure that you guys are spending our money wisely, but you're never going to do that because you guys think that you are. And, if you were doing the right thing and actually helping people stay out of danger instead of implementing things that put us in danger on your draft agendas, you would be bringing forward something to talk about fire mitigation and how you're going to make sure that everybody can evacuate when we are putting all your climate action plans in and roundabouts and taking away lanes and, just really impeding people's ability to get out. But I guess you guys do profit off of people's deaths. So either way, you guys are set to make money on whatever it is. And so you're going to continue to be money whores and go and get a bunch of money, then come back to the people and ask us for more because you mismanage it, flip people off, threaten them, for exposing the truth. And, you guys can't even be trusted to hold a meeting. So anyway, have a good day.
Next is Paul the Bull, followed by Guthrie Leonard.
Paul Bold, review of draft agendas. Welcome back, Ariana. May 22nd, Argus has uncollected debt. Guess the info sharing isn't that good after all. Vehicle award amendment. More money for unneeded vehicles, like the 4 vehicles you granted to Noah Homes on April 24th, item 3.4, listed in attachment 1, but rejected in attachment 2 from Noah Homes itself. This item 3.6 ought to be pulled for separate discussion. And cheers to the microbrewery. June 12th looks okay. 3.3 proposed waiver of board policy. Changing the definition to pilot fares sounds cool, like a kid with a model airplane. Extending the temporary and experimental fare increases should not be done simply on the basis of a Title VI analysis. Title VI mainly involves demographic analysis, and this is changing too rapidly to lock us in for 3 years. 1 year is bad enough. A Title VI analysis is a compliance assessment ensuring that agencies receiving federal funds do not discriminate based on race, color, or national origin. It involves evaluating projects, fare changes, and public outreach to prevent differing impacts on minority and low-income populations. This would be based on maps. Your maps? How old? 5 years? More? There are other considerations, like whether the route is practical, will it be used, will it suit the budget, whether funds will be available for 3 years instead of 1, and so on. Policy pack.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Guthrie Leonard, followed our last the comment Consuelo.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome. I'm commenting on item, I guess it's item number 5 now. I just want to talk
about— This is a consent agenda, so items 3.1 through 3.4. Which consent item are you speaking to?
Oh, excuse me. I did not mean to speak on those. Thank you.
Okay, raise your hand again during item 5. Next, we'll go to Consuelo. Consuelo, you're self-muted.
Okay, Consuelo here. So consent 3.2 and 3.1 for Paul the Bull left off. Okay, 3.2 policy advisory committee actions. Francesco. Okay, only one advisory committee meeting. Government in the shadows. It's about money to do what you're already doing. The RHNA housing allocation. Okay, so sort of another way to increase the state's huge deficit by giving our taxpayer dollars to support a program that isn't working right. It's our tax money, not your money. And with all that vacant, with all the vacant units left by the deportees and billionaires, it's amazing that there is still need for our HNA. What you want, okay, so sorry, I'm reading here. What you want is cheaper housing, 3D printed, shipping crate, or even Adobe houses, which would match the need for houses better than the multi-year projects, which may not be needed by the time they are built. More housing for those who of truly low income. 30% AMI per HUD would also help. 3.1, approval of meeting minutes. Okay. You know, let's see. This is, again, yeah. I guess it's just more of the same. Reading the list of names, like the Oscars, as Paul puts it, and who did what. Surprise! It would be nice to know what the public speakers and board members discussed.
Thank you. Your
without
time
having
has
to search the
expired.
whole thing.
That concludes our public comment on the consent agenda, Chair.
Thanks, Michael. We're going to member comments. We'll go first to second Vice Chair Minto.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm going to speak directly to item 3.3. And I have some comments first and then questions, Mario, and may or may not be able to answer them today. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring this up as a kind of a gotcha or whatever. I just didn't get to creating these, looking at this stuff early enough. So in 3.3, this is the proposed waiver of section 5.8 of board policy number 029. And we're being asked to do this by both MTS and NCTD about their pilot fares. And so the section that we're talking about limits pilot fares pretty much to 12 months. So then if the waiver is approved, the Transportation Committee is going to consider this on May 15th and June 12th. But one thing that maybe we could do later on is explain more about California Senate Bill 1703 from 2003, which explains pretty much really how SANDAG is involved in all this, because that's a question I hear frequently. If MTS is the Metropolitan Transit System, why is SANDAG, you know, approving budgets and things of that nature and having waivers and all these different things that we continue to hear about, because it's almost like a redundancy. But I think people and even board members probably would like to understand more about that. So, and that's certainly not for today. And then speaking about the Youth Opportunity Pass, which was launched in May 2022, it was a pilot. Today, it's still a pilot. And the reason why I make that comment is because it's well beyond the current 12-month limit of pilot projects based on our policies. And to continue to waive that is subject to scrutiny on why do we keep waiving that 12-month limit and not just, you know, adopting or amending the policy. So I guess these questions are what I have is, why is the policy waiver the mechanism being used rather than an immediate formal amendment to board policy 029? And what is the Title VI equity analysis status for the programs that have been operating more than 12 months already? Has compliance been maintained even without formal ordinance coverage? And the reason why I asked that question, because if we're not hearing back regularly on these extended periods of time, well, we have to assume that they're being, you know, complied with. Otherwise, we probably hear about it in some way, probably from an auditor or something, but actually a report. And then does the 36-month ceiling have any rationale for peer agency practices, or is it an arbitrary extension? 36 months is a long time to extend, you know, policy. And will any new pilot fares initiated after the waiver be subject to the same reduced oversight? And what are the safeguards? So, and I don't know if any of that can really be answered today, or, you know, we can come back later on with some, you know, more definitive answers. But I think these are things that we should hear probably more about, and And if we do extend these, perhaps we, when they hear any changes at the Transportation Committee, that we definitely hear it up here also at some point so that we are fully aware of what's going on with the programs. That's all I have.
Antoinette, I think if you want to kick it
I
off.
think we can answer some of your questions now. Mayor Minto. So the reason that we're asking for the waiver instead of a amendment of the policy at this time is that you're going to be getting a whole host of policy amendments this summer. Not just this, but there'll be other things that will be amended in the policy. So we're requesting a waiver at this time, and then this summer you'll be amending board policies across the board.
I actually like that, and that's kind of the way we do it even in our cities is, you know, we just don't do one at a time over time. But we also hear that there are going to be policies that are amended over time or ordinances. And I like to make sure that we kind of get an idea of what those ordinances and policies might be ahead of time so that we can refresh our memory on what they currently are so that when they come before us, maybe it's a little bit easier to understand why changes, where the changes are and things of that nature, if we could do that.
Mayor, just to let you know, as you may recall, as the board may recall, my first week here, I was 4 days in. I did a presentation on the DBE issue, but part of that was doing a more wholesome review of all of the board policies, and I've been doing that. We are planning to come to the executive committee next month to talk about some of the incremental changes that we're doing, but also looking at the policies as a whole. And this is maybe a little bit beyond this point, but in looking at them, if anybody's looked at the 41, 42 board policies, they go in excruciating detail for a lot of things. They almost read more like a how-to manual for certain things. Like they literally talk, and I'm looking at Mayor Duncan right now, how to serve SANDAG and how to do things. And they're very prescriptive, and everything that's changed in there needs to be changed. And I understand the board wants to have an input on there, but it's things like it still reflects our old address. And to make that change, we have to come there, or there's if there's a change to a rate for the government for reimbursement, that's in there. You have to come back to the board for it. So I think when we come back to the executive committee, Mario and I are still coming up with a plan on it, but we're going to give you a grand plan about how we're going to incrementally stage some of these short-term changes that we can fix some of those smaller things with a longer-term plan about how to reimagine the board policies. Because just as a side note, I mean, the way these things should be generally structured is the bylaws are kind of like the Constitution. Those like very little incremental changes. Board policies are kind of like statutes. Like, hey, this is kind of how you follow. This is the how to. Everything else should be operation manuals or frameworks for doing things. So that's the kind of idea that I want to go down and take to executive committee, at least get your take on it, and then we can take it back to the board for consideration. But to Antoinette's point, we have to do incremental changes before we make these larger scale changes and the reimagining of these things.
Great, thank you.
And your question on 12 months versus 36 months, MTS and NCTD requested the 36 months. And I don't think there's anyone here today who can speak as to why that particular time period, but that was their request.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I'm understanding it right. I appreciate Mayor Mento's questions on it. So timing wise, and what we're actually doing, those are my two questions. So it says if we approve this waiver, it'll allow the Transportation Committee to consider amendments. But is that it, or is it actually allowing the fares to continue for 36 months?
Right now, board policy and the comprehensive fare ordinance define a temporary fare, a pilot project as 12 months.
Right.
We're going to be asking the Transportation Committee to adopt a whole host of amendments to the comprehensive fare ordinance. One of those amendments is changing the term from 12 months to 36 months. In order to be able to do that, we need to make sure we're in alignment with the board policy.
Okay.
So this would waive that in the board, just that in the board policy, and allow us to amend the comprehensive fare ordinance to 36 months.
So I understand that. I guess the second half of the question then would be, so what happens after the Transportation Committee? Is it done because we waive the policy, or does it come back to the board for approval?
No, this is delegated to the Transportation Committee. So it will go to the Transportation Committee 2 times. There'll be 2 readings of the amendments to the fare ordinance. Then the Transportation Committee will decide if they want to adopt.
So when you say no, you mean it won't come back to the Board of
It does not come
Directors?
to the board. No, it's delegated per board policy to the Transportation Committee.
But I think Mayor Duncan, and maybe I may be confused, but what's not coming, the fare ordinance will not be coming back to the board because it's been delegated to TC, but the policies and all the updates will be coming back to the board for
That
sure.
is correct, yes.
Councilmember Edson from NCTD, do you have something to weigh in on this?
Yes, there was a question asked about why the extension is needed for 36 months. So 12 months does not provide adequate time to effectively introduce, market, and study the ridership impacts associated with the introduction of fare products such as coaster multi-day ticket packs. So the extension is asked for that reason, so that we have the adequate time to study them, to see if they've got legs, if there's something that we can continue to run with and that is supported by ridership.
I guess for me it's interesting because based on what you said, I mean, the Youth Opportunity Pass has already existed for more than 36 months, right? That's
Yeah, at least maybe longer, since 22, May of 22. So we're now at 4 years.
yeah, so more than 36 months. So okay.
And Mayor Duncan, just to clarify, you the board can pull back the fare ordinance and pull back the delegation and bring it back to the board. The board delegated it to CC, but you're the board. You
So that
have
wasn't
the
from,
ultimate decision.
that wasn't from the legislation.
No,
From
I'm just going back on yes,
Okay.
on for the fair ordinance approval within SANDAG. The board delegated that to the Transportation Committee, but the board at any time or for any other future fair ordinance can pull it back.
Can I ask one final question? Be quick.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to make sure that if we extend it via this consent calendar to up to 36 months in duration, anytime they want to exceed that in the future, it'll just go to transportation, or will it come back to the board?
The board policy would have to come back to the board. The comprehensive fare ordinance would go to TC unless the board so chooses to have the comprehensive fare ordinance come to the board as well.
All right, thank you.
Very good. Okay, back to order. Councilmember Contreras.
Yes, thank you so much. I wanted to speak on 3.3 as well. I feel that there's not a lot of information that was provided to the public and to board members. It would be nice to have at least some kind of an outline as to what items are being referred to. And it's just confusing. So I don't know, is there more information that can be accessed easily about what's going to be discussed?
So this is very specific to temporary, promotional, and experimental fairs. Currently, those are defined as lasting no longer than 12 months in both board policy and the comprehensive fare ordinance.
Yes, no, I understand that part, but what I don't understand is what are the examples of those that are going to be discussed? Is it exclusive to what is written?
Those are just examples. So
Exactly,
examples
yeah.
are Youth Opportunity Pass, the microtransit pilots that NCTD is currently offering, and the 5 or 10 pack coaster ticket pack. So those are examples of experimental fairs or pilot projects that have been done.
Okay, yeah, I what I'm asking, and potentially this is just for the future, is that we are given a kind of an outline of the items that will be discussed by the Transportation Committee that fall under temporary, promotional, and experimental fairs. Because for me, it's really difficult to move forward an item that has some obscurity to it. And I do feel that this item has a lot of obscurity because it's not outright calling out what is going to be discussed. I don't know if people are understanding what I'm saying, but I don't know. It's kind of a confusing item. That's from my perspective as someone who looks at policy a lot.
Maybe I can help. Like Councilmember Edson was mentioning, MTS and NC's boards or staff had asked us to up the 12 months to 36 months, just in case they want to start exploring some pilots in the near future. I don't think there's anything specific that you guys have thought of to bring forward that might be a pilot, but you wanted just a little bit more freedom to have more than 12 months. So we put some examples there, but we don't have any actual concrete examples from either agency of what you want to do as a pilot. But if you guys approve this waiver and then the fair ordinance in a couple of weeks, then you have the freedom to do some pilots in the next couple of years that can last longer than 12 months. What those are, we're not sure yet.
Okay, Brian, you know what? That's very, 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 very helpful. Because as someone who sits on the board of NCTD, I was not certain exactly. When you're telling me there's no concrete examples, that's where the confusion is in this item, because it almost feels like we're approving something that's just blank, open. But I understand that. And the last point that I want to make is that, you know, something that I've raised is creating some kind of low income for 15K a year or less. And it looks like that's something that could be experimental if the board chooses to move in that direction in the future, which I've been a proponent of both at NCTD and here. Am I correct in thinking that? Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, then this is, I feel like I have a really good understanding of this item now. And I'm all in favor of it. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, we'll go to Mayor Sanchez.
Thank you. Also on 3.3. And I actually are on the TC, am on this TC through the Airport Authority. The question I had was this, and I understand the thought process here is for these special promotional programs, obviously to entice more ridership, and I do understand the need for a longer period of time. So I did understand that that was the very specific thing this does is to extend it from 12 months to 36 months as a waiver. And the question I had is, I'm assuming it's all usually going to be lowering the rates for some kind of a special promotion, like, you know, ride it for like baseball games or something. Would it ever go up? Would it ever be higher?
I don't know that we can predict what the pilot projects could be. That would really be up to NCPD and MTS.
Okay.
But I think that would be open to a big discussion because it also falls into a fare increase, and there's a whole process of fare increase.
Okay,
So-
that's what I needed to know. All right, thank you very much. And yes, I'll be supporting this, and I'll go ahead and move approval of the consent calendar.
Thank you so much. Mayor Ayler's you're next. Would you like to second the consent calendar?
Not yet. So my first question is, what is a pilot versus just a regular fare change? How do you define the difference? To me, they're the same thing.
So a pilot project that's in operation in NCTD now is the microtransit service that they're operating. NCTD Plus, I believe, is what it's called. So it's operating as a pilot. They're testing it to see if it works. So that's an example of something that's not yet been determined to be permanent moving forward.
Who determines it's permanent, and when does that designation change officially? How?
NCTD or MTS would make that determination with their boards.
Okay, so it's done by the individual agencies. Great. So, and then let's talk about the YOP. That's still currently a pilot. And so so what we're doing is we're giving the ability to extend, and they also get to define it's a pilot or not a pilot, so they could leave it in a pilot mode for years, decades, conceivably, and extend it. So I think where I'm going is I'd like to propose a modification where I understand the need for 3 years doing market studies, having done that a lot in my business. So I support the 3 years, but what I'd like to say is that no extensions, that it can go 3 years. And then if it needs to be extended, that as a policy, we reserve that right to be extend at the board level. And that would keep those pilots from going on. So the last question I'm going to ask, what is from staff, what is the current status of the YOP pilot? It seems to be 4 years. Is it operating within our current policy as a board?
I think Susan is going to come and chime in a little bit on this.
So right now, the YOP program costs about $6.5 million a year for YOP. It's no longer being done as a pilot. We've worked out a funding arrangement with the transit operators where we provide the capital funds to them, and then they redirect money that would have gone into their capital program that is also can be used for transit operations, and then they direct those funds to the YOP program. So we've continued to fund it, but it's no longer a pilot.
And who made the determination it was no longer a pilot? Was that
It's the funding. The funding can only be used as a pilot for a certain amount of time. We've extended it not through as a pilot, but now we have a funding mechanism with the transit operators. Generally, SANDAG doesn't control transit operator funding.
I think to your point, the board has asked us to continue to fund YOP. So every year that we have been requested to continue to fund YOP, and that's what we have done. The fair ordinance, when it comes to you, will incorporate YOP as a fair. It will no longer be called a pilot.
Well, I'm hearing it's not a pilot. It will no longer be called a pilot. Is it right now? It's not a pilot, correct? Okay, and that we all agree on that.
But it is not yet in the fair ordinance, so that's part of what's happening when you amend
now
the
you're getting to the
ordinance.
crux to my question. And my yes/no question was: are we operating within our policies right now, given the kind of dual nature of what's going on? It's not a pilot yet. It hasn't been adopted in the fair. I just want to know, if an auditor looks at this today, do I get a bad audit result? And are we operating within our parameters?
We are operating with the parameters of the uses of the funds. So
I understand that, but we have board policies. We talked about, Teddy, you talked about the strata. Are we operating within those policies? It's a simple yes, no question.
I think I'd have to take a look at that specifically and get back to an answer for you.
I think that's extremely important, because if we make policy changes such as opening it up, and I think this gets, John, possibly to where you were going, is that do we let it go? Well, I will let it go if I know we're going to operate within those policies. However, if not, I'm going to hold it closer to the vest and stick to the ear and vote no today. So to me, it's still open. I think until you come back and tell us, I have to vote no right now.
Pulling it from the consent.
Yeah. I would prefer to pull this one from the consent. I don't know what the procedures are, but this should be separately voted on, in my opinion.
Okay, so.
And I'll yield.
I'm not 100% sure, but aren't we in the process of making these changes? We're in the process of making the changes to make it fit in. Sometimes these things happen where we got the funding, and the very strong request and support from the board for YOP and direction that we keep that. And it's because of the funding, it's now a program, and we're in the process of updating the policies and the board policies and this. So I think that there's some times when you have to skate a little bit. It's not that we're not in compliance, it's that we're in the process of becoming in compliance. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct. The comprehensive fair ordinance will have a whole host of amendments. This will be one of them, where the youth opportunity pass will be a new fair type.
Yeah. So
this is that process of going and doing those wholesale cleanups, and they're coming up. And at the same time, the staff has followed the direction of the board on keep implementing the YOP. The funding that was originally used was federal funding that had and county funding, the right colors, but it had a specific timetable that did not allow to be pilot it anymore.
Correct. It was a 3 year, it's 3 years.
Yeah.
You can only use those funds for 3 years. And so following the third year, that's when we worked out an arrangement with the transit operators.
But yeah,
It was a pilot.
you are right that there is
There's a lag.
a lag, let's call it like that, but
Yeah.
we're also trying to catch up all those policies.
So we'll
and
separate
align
out,
them.
we'll separate out 3.3 and then you could vote no on it if you'd like to. Whoever else wants to join him can join him. And
Okay.
we'll go about
Very
it
good.
that way. But Mayor Minto, you said you had a follow-up quick question before I go to the rest of the people on the board?
Yes, and I'm sorry, but Bruce brought this or made me think about this because I forget who said it, but you mentioned how it goes from one fund to another fund and then gets paid. If I heard that correctly, is something about the capital improvements fund?
So the funds that we receive into the region are typically used for capital infrastructure. They can only be used for transit operations for 3 years, and that's the pilot part. So now what we're doing is we're using those same funds and we're floating them, we're passing them through to the transit operators. Those are capital funds. They can use those capital funds on their capital projects. Then what they do is they take off their operations funds. We don't receive operations funds. They receive funding that can be used for operations. They do a fund swap where they put our capital funds on their capital projects so it's used appropriately per the regulations and the strings on the funding type. They also have their own transit operations funding that they can take off of capital and apply it to the Youth Opportunity Pass program.
Okay, that's what I thought I was hearing. And in my world, we call that supplanting money. And it's really I've got a lot of heartburn over it, I have to say. And I normally don't have a lot of heartburn over here because to Bruce's question about will this pass an audit? My question is, if they catch this in an audit, they're going to want to know why you're shifting money around.
No,
Whether
I
it's
think
our
Don,
money
I
or
think Don
somebody
needs,
else's.
I think Don needs to address this.
Yeah,
Don is the
and
expert
as
in-
Don is coming
Yeah.
up, as you may recall, we SANDAG is responsible also for capital projects and improvements for the transit agencies. So when the transit agencies were saying, hey, I can chip some of my flexible funds for a specific project, and you could use, I'm going to use an example, SB 125 funds that we're giving to them for operational, but they could also use it for capital. You know, what we did is we partnered with them and we said, hey, let us look at how we can go and get more specific capital dollars for specific projects that we're working together on. So you can have more of your flexible operational capital dollars available so you could use them for whatever you need for your operations, including the YOP. I don't know, Don, if you want to expand.
Yeah, I would like to, this really,
If you can move the mic a little closer, Don.
Sorry.
please. Thank you.
this is a little bit more like, it's functioning more like our pass through. We're passing through funds to them and they are selecting where to program them. Now, you know, there is some direction to them that the purpose of this pass through is to help them within their budget fund the YOP, but it's not that they had, you know, it's not like when you say supplanting, I think like I had something fully funded and then I went and got other funds and pulled my money off. That's really in transportation funding. That's what we really consider supplanting. Like, oh, I'm taking a bunch of money off of a project and putting, you know, a new grant on it. Usually we compete for grants when we actually have a need for funding and we don't show something fully funded. In this case, it's really more like a funding swap, right? They are electing to, within their budget, figure out what will fund the YOP because we've asked them to fund the YOP. What we're making available to them is funding that we know can't fund the YOP because it's federal funding and that could only be used for the 3 years in this pilot because of the type of federal funding it is. So supplanting is maybe a little bit strong in this case. It's not really what we consider supplanting in terms of transportation funding. This really is MTS determining where they're going to program the pass-through funds and how they're going to fund YOP. So they've elected to put these federal funds in their capital program. When they get federal funds like 5307, they can use them for operations or capital. The federal highway funds that we control here and this board controls, the RSTP and CMAQ, they generally cannot be used for operations at all without it being a pilot project. And that's why the CMAQ funds were only eligible for 3 years.
Will this pass is this a red flag in an audit?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
this
at all.
sounds to me like something that I've heard of many times in the past that we've done with different funds. We're following the rules, giving direction and making it work with a partner, right?
Yes. Now, if they had been doing something where they're finding a way to use these funds on their side that are federal to still fund YOP, like those funds are actually being dedicated to the YOP, that is not okay. But that is not what's happening. They're taking the CMAQ funds and they're using them on true capital. And that frees up other money that they have a lot of flexibility with. And that's what they're funding the YOP with.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. I mean, I don't mean that way, but do you have anything you want to follow up with?
No, because I think we're talking about two different things here.
Lean into your mic, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess maybe it's frustrating because what I hear you doing is you're playing the P game, you shuffle. We may not be doing it specifically here, except that we're complicit in allowing MTS to do that, or NTS, whichever, if they're both doing that. Because you can't take money that says, well, it's good for 3 years and you're going into 4 years. So we'll give it to another agency. They can extend it for a year, use
No,
it for whatever they want.
That's not right, John.
Well, that's exactly what I'm hearing.
We get an annual CMAQ allocation every single year from the state.
Is that good for 3 years every single time we get it?
Every single time we get federal funding, it's good the year you get it plus 3 years. So our federal highway funds have typically a life of 4 years.
So we can use them for pilots or we can use them for something else.
Yeah, but once you're actually, so we get money every single year. Once that money is expended, you're on to the next year's funding. So it's a rolling cycle of funding.
But it's not the same color of money, Mayor. What we're just providing is we're providing the capacity for a capital project. We're helping fund either projects that we would be doing and they would be giving us money for, or vice versa. We are providing that so they have more of other colors of money flexible that allows them to use them whatever fairs or operations. Very similar to something that we're trying to do with the Lausanne realignment, where North County Transit is hitting together with MTS a fiscal cliff. And what we're doing is we're trying to see if the state will allow us to use other capital dollars so we can return the SB 125 to North County Transit so they can use them for what those funds were primarily set for their operations. That's still being worked out, so it will come to the board if it even gets worked out. But it's a very similar situation that gets done in transportation quite often, where there are different conditions on the different colors of money. But here, our responsibility at SANDAG is to help fund capital projects, to manage some of the capital projects for the transit agencies. That's what we're doing, and we're providing an ecosystem for them to have more available funds for their operations. Knowing MTS and North County Transit, hearing the public, hearing this board, hearing their own board saying, hey, YOP is something important, seeing the numbers that it's been so successful, they're saying, hey, yeah, if we can work something out that you could help us release capacity for operations and maintenance, we appreciate it. And we'll dedicate that to this special program that is so important to San Diego County.
Okay, I think I get all that, and I do have to commend everybody on their creative financing. I'll leave it at that.
All right, Councilmember Picus. I always want to call you Yurok still. I do not know why.
Initially, I was I'm actually surprised I'm talking about MTS stuff twice today, but I was initially kind of against this because, the 3 years kind of made me nervous because that's the way temporary government projects become a permanent thing. But Councilwoman Edson kind of gave a good explanation as why she needs 3 years so that they can gather metrics and actually try this out, because I can understand you authorize something, you've got a 12-month limit. That's a really short fuse if you have to plan it and advertise it and get people to use it. And collecting data is what really caught my eye, because I'd like to hear back from the data for all these pilot programs. I think they're really interesting. I think it's a great idea to find ways to get people to encourage people to use transit if we can, and find out what works and what doesn't. But like, for example, the Youth Opportunity Pass, I don't think we've ever seen any numbers on that. I mean, how many people have passes? How many trips do they take per month and stuff like that? Or if there's a promotional fare, how much did that increase ridership? That'd be interesting to know. So I'd kind of like to hear reports back after these pilots are finished, hopefully in 36 months or less. And mostly that was my objection, is that I want to, if you're going to do a pilot project, I'd like to see what difference it made afterwards, and whether it was worth doing or whether it was worth repeating, especially for the Youth Opportunity Pass, which again, 4 years now.
So we have had some metrics on that. And Councilmember Edson, do you know them offhand?
I do not. I'm hoping that Antoinette might be able to, or Tyler.
You can give them to me privately.
I'm happy to share them with you privately.
I think it's, what we can say is it's quite successful. Yeah, very, very successful.
It looks like.
Yeah, and generating new riders as well as the revenue.
It looks like Tim may be able to comment on this.
Yeah, Tim.
Hi, good morning. Tim Garrett, Associate Regional Planner here. We provided an update to the Transportation Committee back in October, so about 6 months ago, on the Youth Opportunity Pass in terms of the ridership. We can say that more than 39 million free transit rides have been provided since the program started in May 2022. And so we're currently seeing it's in the ballpark of 400,000 rides per month among youth with the YOP. So we have the open data portal, has the information available online, opendata.sandag.org. So that's available to the public if anyone wants to look at the data themselves.
Thank you for that information. Hopefully that's helpful to you. Yeah, Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Chair. Can I second the motion? We have a motion on the table. Can I second the motion?
Motion was for the full consent.
Yes.
You want to second that?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I'd like to call the question. This is a consent item. If they wanted to pull it, we should have pulled it.
That's what we have.
So
But
actually,
they need to make the motion and we need to do it.
Agreed to pull it. So why don't we just do it that way? Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so let's go back to the motion maker. Can you change, would you be willing to change your motion to approving 3.1, 3.2, 3.4 separately from 3.3?
Right, and I think yes, I'll agree to that, but I think we've already had the discussion, so hopefully we'll do two different votes.
We'll do two different votes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion for the first part of it, and would you like to make a motion, but Mayor Ehlers, for the 3.3?
Yes.
And Mayor Snow, would you like to make a motion for 3.3, or who else would like to make a motion? Second.
I mean, you're going to be,
Second.
I think that you're
Okay, so we
seconding
have two
my
motions
motion
on the table
and you're
at the same
making
time.
another motion to approve
Okay,
3.3.
so we'll vote on one and then we'll go for the other. Okay, so there are two other people on the board that do they have burning comments? We've discussed it kind of to pieces. So Mayor Ehlers and Councilmember Gasterlin, you're on the board. Did you want to speak? Okay.
I was actually starting to speak.
Okay, okay, we're going to do that. We're not going to
Cancel me out on the.
Okay, let's be mindful of the time. We're only on consent. We've got two other items. All right, Mayor
I would like to call the question.
Yeah, I think, so you're talking about the question of 3.1, 2, and 4?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that. And then I can speak afterward.
Okay, very good.
Likewise.
Yeah. Please use your devices to vote on 3.1, 3.2, and 3.4. Okay. Okay, that passes unanimously. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and if we could, I could just do the motion for approval, somebody second it, and then we can finish the discussion.
Okay, very good.
So I
For
move that we
item
approve 3.3.
And then, well,
Second.
okay, we'll do it that way. All right. 3.3, Mayor Jones.
So on 3.3, I was hoping that we could actually bring this back and have our internal controls make sure that we are following everything exactly the way that we should. I think there's just a little bit of not enough clarity in my opinion. So I would make a substitute motion that we kick it back and have our internal controls and possibly our auditor, independent auditor also weigh in to make sure that we are following everything exactly the way that we should, because we're at a really important point in time right now where we're working very hard to bring back some trust in us. And I think this would be an important step of that.
And I'll second that substitute motion.
Okay, all right. Councilmember Gasterland.
Yeah, I'll third the substitute motion. I thoroughly support the Youth Opportunity Pass program, and looking ahead at item 4, our budget, we have $77,000 going into it from the SANDAG budget, which is very little. And my concern about 3.3 is that NCTD and MTS could potentially opt not to use the funds to fund the Youth Opportunity Pass in the shell game approach that Mayor Minto has talked about. I'm worried that by doing this pass through, we're putting the Youth Opportunity Pass at risk when we know that we here have been supporting it. So I wanted to put that on the table, but that's now not what we're voting on.
Mayor Gasterland, the amount that you're looking at is just for administration of the program. The money that we swap with the transit agencies is in a different part of the budget. So there's much more money going into Youth Opportunity Pass than $77,000. And we have a agreement with MTS and NCTD that is very explicit about how that money can be used.
Okay, so there are guarantees in there that it will flow to funding the Youth Opportunity Pass program.
Yes, we have a contract or a formal agreement that defines how the funding can be used and that it must go to the Youth Opportunity Pass program.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, so we have a substitute motion on the board that we're going to postpone this.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Is it possible? I don't know how to.
I can't see the board anymore.
I know, I'm so sorry.
No, it's not you. Go ahead.
Okay. I actually see it both ways. And I'm wondering if the original motion could include a friendly amendment where we're approving this, but we're also going to take it to internal controls, just like Mayor Jones pointed out, and that if there is anything wrong, it would come back to the board immediately. I would feel comfortable with something like that more than I feel comfortable with the original motion or the substitute motion.
Okay, let's hear from Councilmember Edson from NCTD. If you had anything to weigh in on this, you're on the board.
Yeah, my comment is basically a follow-on to Councilmember Gasterland's comment. I just want to reassure everyone that NCTD board was 100% in support of YOP and maybe about 150%.
Can I ask, now I'm going to ask the team because I'm not sure about this. You know, everything is kind of a domino effect. Right. So we're requesting this so we could be in good shape for the fair ordinance readings. So if we would to postpone this, would this be an impact to the fair ordinance readings that we would need to delay them?
If we're going in June, I think we would be okay, but we need to sit down and look at the overall schedule. But there is a chance that this could put the readings, the 2 required readings at risk.
Okay, so Mayor Jones, as the maker of the substitute motion,
Yeah.
would you accept the amendment that we approve it just to keep the ball rolling and that we continue, we also have a report with internal controls and the auditor to weigh in and make sure that we're in compliance or on the way to compliance with everything that we're supposed to be?
So I would be okay with not postponing it, approving it in the event that it does have to come back to us. Not a possibly if we feel there's an
No,
issue,
that
but
it will.
I think a full report
Yeah.
from both internal controls and the auditor to let us know that, yes, everything looks good. But I'd like to have a finite amount of time, and I don't want to have an unreasonable expectation. I think that's not good either. So maybe we could say within 60 days, and would that give enough time?
July.
Yes, I think that would
Okay.
work.
Okay.
So
Getting it
my,
ready.
my substitute would be that it would come back within 60 days with the internal auditor, I'm sorry, the independent auditor and then internal controls, both weighing in, and that would be.
Okay.
fine
And
with
are
me.
you accepting?
And I understand that it will come back,
It
not
will.
it.
Correct, it will.
Okay, yeah,
Not
I'm
if
okay
there's
with that.
something wrong, it will come back. Okay.
So just for, so we're all clear on this, is that there's a couple of things here because we're hearing about the internal auditor and the report back. So the idea would be that you would approve this to waive it, and staff would go on and proceed with proceeding with the schedule in June to do the first reading, right? And then I think there was some concern from either Mayor Duncan or Mayor Ellers about if this ultimately will go back to the board for final determination. Was that one of the concerns that was listed? I'm just trying to clarify because a lot of things are being said here today.
We're just committing to come back in 60 days with the controller, internal controller, and the auditor's assessment. And I
Correct.
just
And
looked over at Shanae and she's nodding that 60 days is reasonable.
Okay,
So
that's good. I'm going to
Yes.
call for the vote.
Yes,
All right.
and then if there's an issue, we could actually change course if that were the case.
Yeah.
Perfect, okay.
You hate to change course if it's already had a first and second reading.
Is it too late if they find something wrong that, since we've already had a first and second reading of the ordinance, would there be a fix?
I'm not the lawyer, but I'll
It's
put it
okay.
as I
We
read
want
it.
to make sure we're
But you
complying,
said
whatever it
when I
is. But
Yes.
that's my intention, Mayor Mento. That's
The
exactly what I'm
ordinance will
trying
be
to.
moving forward, the readings, right, and the approvals. But Teddy, do you want to chime in or are you still doing homework? And the other thing is we can bring the item not in 60 days, in between the readings. And that could be.
We have a thought, and Shanae's going to have to chime in if we can do this. Maybe instead of 60 days, we can do a report back in 45 days. And then that way the board can
Exactly.
have some time to weigh in.
Yes, that would be acceptable.
Shanae's that
So we just change if that works for Shanae.
not working 80 hours a week though.
Sorry, I don't like to do it like this, but so many good points have been brought up. I just don't think we can ignore that.
Shanae said she'll make it work.
I'm sorry?
She'll make it work.
Shanae
Yes,
said
we
she
will
will make
come.
that work.
Perfect.
We will come.
Okay,
in
so
between.
45 days, not 60 days. We're all under agreement of understanding what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I'm good with that.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, please vote.
I'm sorry, are we voting on the substitute motion? Okay.
Yes.
Santee,
There was no substitute.
there we go. It's a substitute motion with the amendment to it, whatever. Yeah. Okay, very good. Okay, we'll now move on to the downtown to Imperial Bikeway budget amendment. This is item number 5. And then we'll go to item number 4 after this.
Let me keep putting my steel shield on.
Clint.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Board. Here, we're bringing back the Imperial Bikeway Avenue amendment that we discussed the last board meeting. Before we hand it over to Dave to kind of jump in, obviously, we know there's lots of conversations around the bike program that we'll continue to have. But I think it's kind of important to step back. What we talked about is bike program. These are really much more than bikes. And you'll see in this project some of those elements. There really are complete streets that include even transit elements, bus pads, bulbs out, a lot of safety elements, pedestrian elements. So there's a lot more than painted green stripe. So we'll kind of go through those. As well, I think it's kind of important too, is we remember all the conversations we've been having, and we brought to the board last November, kind of our priority list of projects, that 5-year plan. These projects are part of that. And within those goals that we talked about and set, right, you said that first goal is safety. The second goal is continuing existing projects, right? And that's particularly important when you're in construction, right? As part of my responsibility in the capital program is to continually evaluate the projects, evaluate risk. And some of that risk is that conversation of how do you mitigate that risk? And is it, do you add money to a job? Do you not add money to a job? And while a lot of times we bring projects the increase in funding on a project, that's what we see, those hydrogen. What you're not seeing are all the decisions every single day in construction design on ways to avoid bringing money. So when we add money to a project, it's not that we work closely with the delivery teams, with finance, with things to try to minimize that. And when we do have to add money, you'll see in here, we also try to minimize the amount of local dollars, right? The amount of our flexible funding onto those. And you'll see in the next item on the budget amendment, right? We actually have projects that we're recommending the opposite. And so this item is to add money, but we have other projects where we've evaluated and say, hey, that isn't, it's not a recommendation. So you'll see some of those elements we go into this project. There'll be many questions we're happy to answer. But I did want to kind of touch on that first, and then I'll hand it over to Dave.
Thank you. Thank you, Clint. My name is David Cortez. I'm your Director of Engineering and Construction. SANDAG's Imperial Avenue Bikeway will create more than 3 miles of safer streets for people to walk, bike, drive, and take transit between downtown and southeast San Diego. Basically, you can see here from the 5 freeway all the way to the 805 along Imperial Avenue. Like Clint said, this project will include high visibility and raised crosswalks, curb extensions, bike boxes, bus islands, cycle track, bus stops, and bend outs. This map shows the locations of some of these improvements in the project. You see here some examples of what these improvements typically look like. Of course, we have buffered bike lanes and separated bike lanes that either separate vehicles from bicycles, either with a striping or with a physical barrier. By the way, this also provides additional safety for people on the sidewalk, because now that the vehicles are farther away from the edge of that sidewalk. We also have bend out treatments, which is extended curb returns at intersections to reduce the distance that the pedestrians needs to cross the road safely, and reducing the time of exposure. We're also installing modern street lights and traffic signals, including bike signals, but also pedestrian lead times. So the pedestrian starts walking across the streets before the cars get a green light. That way it improves the visibility of that pedestrian. And of course, bus islands, which is intended to allow people biking to continue in a straight line without merging into the street, and provides more space for transit passengers to wait for the bus while keeping a clear path on the sidewalk for people walking. Currently, we are about 76% complete with the project, but major work still pending, including paving on 24th and 45th Street, flat work on 25th Street, and of course, striping and signage all along the alignment. But what I want you to focus on this slide is the graph shown on the bottom left that compares time spent with work complete. In a healthy project, we like to see the time spent and work complete comparison around the same percentages. In this case, there's a major imbalance caused by delays experienced on this job. Originally, this project was to begin back in February of 2024 with an original completion date of September of 2025, or about a year and a half construction period. However, we did not start actual construction until June of 2024, due in part with some traffic control permit issues we encountered, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But this slide shows that not only did we experience delays at the beginning of the job, but along the way as well. So much so that our new estimated open to public or completion date is December of 2026. That's about 13 months delay. Like most of our contracts, we anticipate and account for common issues that we encounter during a typical construction project, like host cities' field modifications, unsuitable materials, buried man-made objects. Most of the time, we are able to absorb this time and cost of the issues within the contract's budget. However, for this job, the challenge we encountered was to obtain the necessary traffic control permits, and they were the main driver of why we're sitting here today. You see, sometime after we developed the city-approved design traffic control plans for construction, the city updated their requirements for pedestrian detours. So when our contractor applied for the permits using the approved plans, the city required new engineered revised traffic control plans in order to meet this new requirement. As an example, our work at 24th Street originally required 6 phases to complete in the approved design plans. However, in order to meet the city's pedestrian detour requirement, this intersection was now required to be done in 12 phases. The more phases, the more time required to complete the work. It also introduces inefficiencies that the contractor did not bid on, as well as increased costs for the design consultant to develop the plans, and of course, additional costs for the construction managing consultant to inspect the work. In all, an additional 20 plan sheets were needed in 5 different locations. We estimate that this issue alone accounts for more than 10 months of the delay and accounts for $2 million in capital and soft cost. I will now pass it to Susan to talk about our budget request and the type of money we are proposing to use.
Thank you, David. So in terms of our funding strategy for this
Susan,
project,
mic closer to you, please.
So this project is in construction, and addressing the cost overrun is critical to meet our commitments and our funding and grant commitments. So our approach follows SANDAG's long-standing funding principles for managing limited resources. Because the project is already underway, it aligns with our top priority, fully funding active project phases through completion. Also consistent with our fund strategy, we are prioritizing outside funds first and using the least flexible funding early. So in this case, the carbon reduction program funds are the least flexible and are a strong fit for this project, as they are specifically intended for projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and bike and pedestrian infrastructure applies. To leverage these federal funds, we are adding $326,000 in Transnet bike, pedestrian, and neighborhood safety funds as the required local match. And then the remaining gap is being addressed with regional federal formula funds. So overall, this strategy prioritizes the delivery of an active project, maximizes external funding, and uses local funds efficiently as leverage. I'll turn it back.
So I want to touch on too some of the risks, right? When we talk about evaluating the risks and when we propose to add funding and what are the options, we've looked at various scenarios, including cutting out some of the work. This project, like many others, is partially funded with ATP funds, so active transportation funds from the state. There's a high risk if we don't complete this project as intended. We don't meet the performance measure of those ATP funds. We would be giving back those funds. It's about $4.5 million in funds. We'd also incur additional costs. We can't leave the project as is. So if we wanted to stop the project, we'd have to pay the contractor to at least button up, provide a safe site, complete some of the work. And you're also continuing to have to be out there, right? So there's additional costs, soft costs in terms of maintaining that site. It's also liability for SANDAG. When we complete a project, we release the contractor of liability when we hand over that facility to the local agency. If we don't complete the project, we're holding that liability of that project out there until it's completed and handed over. And obviously, we won't complete the bike segments and the improvements that were promised to be completed. So, with that, I'll open up to questions.
Actually, before questions, we're going to go to the public. All right, Michael, how many speakers do we have?
We have 2 in person and we have 8 online, Chair.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
So we'll start with Truth, followed by Cesar Javier. This is item number 5.
Over a year late and barely halfway done. Quite frankly, there is a lot of disappointing people in this room. Your lack of transparency absolutely disgusts me, and frustrating is like understatement. At the April 24th meeting, we were given no transparency on how the meeting was run, with Rebecca suddenly pulling the item after the public had already spoken to it. So there was really no discussion at that time for residents paying for this absolute garbage. But that being said, I appreciate Rebecca today and in the past, because some of the several issues with this project, by no means the first SANDAG bike lane with constant delays becoming a money pit. There's also the multi-million-dollar border to Bayshore project delayed for years now, for example. Makes you wonder why SANDAG can't manage a mere 3.5 miles without spending millions and millions. So thank you as well to Bruce and Mento, as always, because I and everyone in this state could care less if SANDAG does Mario's idea of relabeling projects as regional corridor. Again, what does that have to do with bike lane projects costing on average $10 million each? This one is over $10 million for 1 mile. And yet nobody uses them. They lead to nowhere. Even better, this one's $30 million. Look, who cares if you give $4 million back? What does that mean? Who cares? Give it back. Be done with this nonsense. Because Canto, Mountain View, Sherman Heights, those are hilly. You can't walk. You can't bike in those areas easily. It's like, the thing is, you admitted here at this board that you're not supposed to build uphill bike lanes. Yet that's exactly what the city of San Diego keeps doing. Pershing, Fifth Avenue, Governor Drive, etc. I should start making a list because it's outrageous. And then your pointless curb extensions doesn't help for public safety as a pedestrian. And yet you didn't plan for any of these traffic control problems. Aren't you supposed to have this well planned in advance before you just go ahead and fund a project? This is complete extreme negligence and waste under the SANDAG banner. And so this is my real message on this, other than quit. It's staff, you need to quit making excuses for your failures, because it is very obvious what is going on.
Thank you. Next is Cesar Javier, followed by Consuelo online. This is item number 5, the downtown to Imperial Avenue Bikeway project.
Thank you, SANDAG. Javier family. Private finance, public appearance, public participation, because this is in our constitution. We want to live longer. And we disagree in the very beginning what our city elected official, Ero Rivera, has been advocating. Bike, bike, bike. We found out that there is a pronounced fatalities and deaths since. Number 2, it's costly. Number 3, it narrows our streets and roads, internal, as well as somewhere outside. Ma'am Vivian Moreno is our chair auditor, City of San Diego. She closed her eyes since. The MB has already a policy. Share the road. Very basic, very simple. Why we do have to complicate by putting up bike lanes. Look at every district in our city. Varied mode. There are concrete boundary lanes. There are painted with different colors, with different shapes. Wow, very costly, Uncle Minto. Brother Duncan. Sister from San Marcos, Oceanside. Sister from, we haven't gone to Vista yet, right? Sir Carlsbad, who has been telling you, we are confused.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Consuelo, followed by Jason B. online.
Amen, Brother Javier. Okay, Consuelo here. Once again, we are watching costs explode on projects that the public is constantly told are essential, yet many people barely use them and many communities are not benefiting from them equally at all. $15.8 million project suddenly turns into over $30 million. Okay, so the public truly deserves a real explanation for that. And no, I don't buy the idea that it's all simply inflation or delay impacts. And then reading the summary, talking about requested traffic control plan changes, signal foundation changes, signal redesigns, and lane configuration changes, that does not sound like delays. That sounds like planning problems from the beginning. And what exactly are we getting for all of this money? More bike lanes, more bike lane infrastructure that already costs over $5 million per mile in some cases, while people are struggling to pay rent, buy groceries, survive inflation, and keep gas in their effing cars. At some point, somebody needs to say enough. And not many are paying attention, quite frankly. It's so unfortunate. This constant social engineering of how people are supposed to move, live, commute, and exist is becoming very obvious to the public. SANDAG keeps pushing the same agenda-driven vision, regardless of whether it truly serves the region equally or not. And speaking of equity, East County. Tired of seeing the maps. The priorities act like half of the county barely exists. I'm stealing this information from Paul the Bold. Sorry, babe. East County residents deserve quality roads, totally. Infrastructure and transit too. Okay. So yeah, people are waking up to the manipulation behind the scenes of, these agencies like SANDAG.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Jason B., followed by San Diego County Bicycle Coalition. Go ahead, Jason. Jason? All right, we'll move on to San Diego County Bicycle Coalition, followed by Chris Roberts.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, Chair and the SANDAG Board. My name is Ian Hembry, and I am the Advocacy and Community Manager with the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition. I support the staff recommendation to approve an amendment to increase the budget for this project. Permitting delays are unfortunate, and we encourage SANDAG to do more at the state level to advocate for making these projects less expensive and quicker to implement. We should not have a year of delay on projects like this. However, that does not change the situation around this project. As the staff presentation shows, the prudent decision is to increase the project budget and get it complete by the end of the calendar year. The risks of not completing the project are too great to consider. While this is called a bikeway, it is more than a bikeway. It includes proven safety enhancements for all road users in an under-resourced area of San Diego. Since 2016, at least 24 people have been severely injured or killed within the project extents, and as part of SANDAG's Safety Focus Network, the 6% of streets where more than half of severe and fatal crashes occur. Leaving the project at its original project budget will risk the possibility of it being left incomplete, and it sends the wrong message to Southeast San Diegans who have suffered from government underinvestment for decades. Thank you for your time.
Next is Chris Roberts, followed by Paul the Bold.
Good morning, Chair and board members. I'm Chris Roberts, a volunteer for San Diego 350. I want to express my support for approval of the program budget amendment to keep the Downtown to Imperial Avenue Bikeway project moving forward without delay. This is a critical regional bike network connection that links Southeast San Diego to downtown. On Wednesday of this past week, I biked to an MTS community input meeting at the MTS building on Imperial Avenue. So I biked on part of this future project. And needless to say, Imperial Avenue is in desperate need of improved pedestrian and bike infrastructure. When this project is completed, many, many more people will be biking and walking on Imperial Avenue. Completion of this project will be transformative, will greatly increase safe bicycling and walking for all citizens in the area. Thank you for your time, and please support this program budget amendment for this vitally important project.
Next, like circulate planning and policy.
Hi, Paul Bold. Another capital improvement program over budget, not because of inflation so much as improvement, adding incentives to see if you can lure more riders than the dismally low numbers you're seeing. Your 15.8 million project was delayed, so now you want 3 million more. Over 5 million per mile for something few will use, and it doesn't enhance safety a bit. And the summary says delay impacts include requested changes to traffic control plans, light and signal foundation changes in signal design, and changes to lane configuration. Sounds like this is new design, maybe bad planning to begin with, not delayed impacts. And in the budget changes amendment, I do not see why the total for a $15 or $18 million project is suddenly $30.2 million. By the way, how is getting more bikeways in East County going? Or do your maps still not go that far? I'm actually tired of seeing maps of half the county as if the other half didn't exist. Or is SANDAG ashamed to admit that East County deserves good roads and transit too? Thanks.
Next is circulate planning and policy, followed by Paul Jameson.
Good morning. My name is Aria. I'm the policy manager at Circulate Planning and Policy, and I'm speaking in support of this proposed amendment. Circulate has been engaged on the Imperial Ave Bikeway project since 2021. Our planning team has conducted infrastructure audits, community engagement, and bike ped safety education with students in support of advancing this project, and we really want to see it move forward. This budget amendment ensures that a project that is already underway gets completed so that the street and sidewalk safety improvements expand the network of connected and protected roads for people who walk, bike, and roll. Further, as the presentation demonstrated, this project is more than just a bikeway, as its name might indicate. It creates a safer path of travel for all who move through the area. This project has been in the works for a long time, and while we should always strive to make sure that our projects are completed in a quick and efficient, budgetary efficient manner, it doesn't change the fact that San Diegans deserve to see this project fully completed. I urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Next is Jameson, followed by Guthrie Leonard.
Hi there, my name is Paul Jameson, and I'm speaking in support of this item. This project includes proven safety improvements like separated bikeways, raised and high visibility crosswalks, curb extensions, bike boxes, and bus islands. These upgrades make streets safer not only for bicyclists, but also for pedestrians, transit riders, seniors, children, and families. I know from personal experience biking in this area that there currently isn't really a safe east-west connection through the area. So this would make a huge difference to me and to many other potential riders out there. The Imperial Bikeway is also a critical regional connection that will link Southeast San Diego to downtown and connect into the broader network of early action program bikeway projects that SANDAG has already completed or started constructing. That's a critical point. As the presenter said, if we don't complete this project, the bike network will remain unconnected and potential riders will continue not to ride. We've heard from a lot of commenters that, well, no one rides in these bike lanes, despite SANDAG bike counters showing increasing ridership, yet we still haven't created a safe, connected network of bike lanes. The analogy would be, do we not build bridges because no one swims across a river? This amendment helps ensure the project can move forward efficiently while continuing to leverage outside state and federal funding for transportation improvements that benefit the entire region. And then finally, just regarding the social engineering comments, for decades, we've kind of been forced to buy costly vehicles and drive because safe and robust options to driving haven't been provided throughout the region. So providing safe alternatives to driving isn't social engineering. Forcing people to drive everywhere is. Thank you.
Next is Guthrie Leonard.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome. I just want to thank staff for pushing through on this. I know it can be discouraging when there are unforeseen cost escalations, and so I appreciate staff understanding the importance of projects like this and the importance of this project specifically and what it means to that community and how it fits into our overall bike network. And I really enjoyed what Paul had to say. I really think once you can get to more than one or two places on a bike network, it starts to be really appealing to be able to go anywhere. And I know the difference between riding on a 4-lane road that has a unbuffered bike lane and riding on 4th and 5th Avenue where it's like, oh, this is great. Like I want to be here. It's not just that I'm using this for transportation. So I really appreciate staff moving forward with this project. I do want to say there is a little irony to me of trying to use up funds before they're no longer eligible to be used when that's something we're not doing with the airport transit connector with Port Authority funds. So I'd love it if we could have that same philosophy across our projects, but I really appreciate this project and I urge you to forward it. Thank you.
Then phone number 0697, Jason B. We'll try one more time with you. You're self-muted, Jason.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Hi, my name is Jason. I'm a resident and homeowner of San Diego. My family, we own a car, but we use bikes as our primary form of transportation because it's better for the climate, our health, and it really helps us financially with the current gas prices. Gas is really unaffordable right now, and it helps to be able to bike instead, but without safe infrastructure, it limits where we can go with our bikes. That's why I ask you to please fully fund the Imperial Avenue Bikeway project. This project provides key access to neighborhoods that have been traditionally underserved by safe street infrastructure. If it's not fully funded, there'll be dangerous gaps, which not only increase the risk of crashes, but when there are gaps, far fewer people will use the bikeway. You wouldn't drive on a freeway that had dangerous gaps. Additionally, without fully funding, we will relinquish millions of dollars in additional ATP grant money, which our community could really use. So please fund the bikeway. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Thank you. We'll start with Councilmember Contreras.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the information. I just, I have a few points to make. We have in North County the Inland Rail Trail, and it's in excess of 25 years. And I just wish that we had the same amount of urgency to complete the Inland Rail Trail that I'm seeing for, the urgency of different projects down here. So, I am supportive of this, but at some point, the public is right that these runaway costs are, I don't know what it is that we could do to have better planning or have better control of the overall cost of these projects and the time that it takes. Maybe that's something that could come back to the board to have a little bit more discussion on. I would love to see a list of recommendations as to how we can tighten these controls and ensure that projects are delivered closer to on time, with the goal of being on time and potentially, at budget or under budget. I think that's really important. So, I would love to see that as a board member, a full discussion with the board about that. And the other thing I want to say is, in my city, we have gone ahead and committed some dollars to creating a network for all modes of transportation, including folks that use their bike and that walk. And it is negligent to not move forward with these types of projects because we know that it's very dangerous for folks with some of the arterials that we have, some of the streets that are in excess of, they become racetracks for cars. And so I'm really dedicated to ensuring that we have real freedom of mobility. It's critically important, and that we decouple transportation to fossil fuels because, we need to become more energy independent. It doesn't cost me much to charge up my e-bike, except that it could cost me my life if the infrastructure is not there. So that's the only point I want to make. I'll go ahead and move forward this item for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments as well. I know that there is room for improvement on this sort of thing. Of course, there were some things in the field that they just found, but also the traffic control situation. And I was just kind of speaking offline with Mario that improved communications with the cities sooner and more constant, I think would help so that we would prevent this sort of delay of, we now see something going from 6 phases to 12 phases because they have to reconsider how they're going to build the whole thing now, right? So again, lessons learned, perhaps a very expensive one. This is an early action bike project. I know there's mixed feelings on this board and in the communities about bike projects, but we did commit to this many, many years ago. It's in construction. It would be probably pretty unwise and risky to pull the plug on something like this at this stage. But I think we do need to learn lessons from this and move forward with that. With that, I'll go to Councilmember Gasterland. I don't see you at all on the board, Councilmember, but I will. You're not here, but I will call on you now, and then Councilmember Gasterland, you can go later.
Thank you. This is in my district. So.
Yeah.
And
I was surprised not to see you on the board.
Yeah, for the record, it does state that the maybe you're thinking I'm here for MTS, and I'm not. I'm here for the city of San Diego.
No.
The Imperial Bikeway project, as was mentioned, is 13 years in the making and a significant investment to provide street safety, mobility infrastructure, and greater neighborhood connectivity to the communities of Lincoln Park, Mountain View, Logan Heights, Stockton, Grant Hill, and East Village. Imperial Avenue runs through historically Black and Brown communities, so this investment is particularly overdue after decades of underinvestment. The Imperial Bikeway project, it's not just a bikeway, it's a corridor improvement project that's making the street safer. It was mentioned, there's visibility crosswalks, raised crosswalks, curb extensions, bike boxes, cycle tracks, bus stops, bend outs, and more. Now, we're all cognizant of state mandates. I think always unfunded state mandates that we all have to deal with. In order to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, projects like this are needed to reach our goals. Communities of color along Imperial Avenue have had to confront disproportionate environmental burdens and higher rates of pollution on top of infrastructure gaps. This project is a chance at remedying past wrongs. The additional funding being requested to complete this project includes $436,193 in federal funding from the Carbon Reduction Program. The Federal Regional Surface Transportation Program is bringing in about $2.2 million. And lastly, the Transnet Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Neighborhood Safety is bringing in $325,911. I do want to thank Mayor Jones for bringing forward your concerns and your call for transparency last month, which I totally agree with. The work from staff should be correct, not just for the board's benefit, but for the benefit of the public. Transparency is paramount, especially given SANDAG's track record. From April's meeting, I could see that leadership is taking steps to address the call for transparency, including tracking changes in the materials and also us revisiting this item. Last meeting, we also heard from our CEO, Mario Orso, and he took responsibility for the mistakes that happened, ensuring greater quality assurance moving forward. I want to conclude by emphasizing that SANDAG has made a commitment to invest in this corridor and in these communities. Construction is currently underway. While there have been delays, we should not derail the momentum of this project any further, as there are many businesses eager for this project to be completed. Many businesses. So with that, I heard that there was a motion. I don't know if you, Chair, if you seconded it, but I'm happy to second the motion on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have 9 speakers on the board, so when it's your turn, please keep it brief. Councilmember Gasterland.
Thank you. So I want to use this opportunity to really speak for the bikeways and for the last mile. I'm a fan of this bikeway and the other bikeway projects that we have. E-bikes, bikeways, and trolleys do work together as a way to get around for people who are comfortable doing so, even with hills. I'm one of those persons. I have an e-bike. My 2-person household has 1 car and 4 e-bikes, and we use our e-bikes to commute to work, including on bike to work day. But the lanes do need to be done so that they add, they don't take away, especially parking, and so that they reduce dangers to bikers. I welcome the changes that are happening here. You all have recognized flaws and issues and redesigned them. And we're putting some money into getting this right. This item releases additional funds, as Councilmember Moreno has reviewed, to complete the project and to do it with changes based on lessons learned in the field. Bikeways done well is our SANDAG goal, and I very much would like to see us internalize lessons learned and continue to improve how we do our bikeways going forward. Scooters can use the bikeways as well as bikes, and that's part of why it's the last mile solution. And then to close, I want to invite people to UCSD. We have all sorts of bikeways, miles of bikeways in our 1-mile diameter campus. The students are on bikes and scooters all the time. I'm on my e-bike. And I think we can really, if we start thinking about this more open-mindedly, we can really use these bikeways as a way to improve our local transit. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cazares.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of the points that have been made today. And I wanted to speak because East County got brought up a lot by some of our speakers. And absolutely, I do want us to have more investment in East County. But this community specifically that the Imperial Avenue Bikeway is in has not been invested in as well. And so I just wanted to share my support for investing, especially in the pockets of the city of San Diego that have not been invested in for a long time, in addition to East County, North County, etc. I also wanted to share, we're hearing a lot about bikes, especially e-bikes lately, and the conversation continues to be around like the dangers of riding a bike, whether it's a bicycle or an e-bike. And when you look at these stories, ultimately, in a vast majority of cases, they have to do with cars hitting bicyclists. And I feel like the changes that are being made for the Imperial Avenue Bikeway are going to be really important in protecting those bicyclists. And yes, more and more folks will bicycle, whether it's a bike or an e-bike, when they are all connected together. I know myself, if there's not a bike lane, I will not be bicycling. I don't feel safe doing so. And so I think it's really important that we continue to do this right. And sometimes that means it takes more time and more money, but I really appreciate the time that we're spending on this, because trying to fix it later will cost a lot more money and could cost lives. So I'm in support of this item and just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Chair. So 13 years in the making, that is a very long time. And I know things cost money as more money as we go on. I do have a concern. I'm still going to support this, but I do have a concern of us reallocating bike money from one project to another. So I'm not sure what projects are now maybe not being funded by over $300,000. And the reason I bring this up is, we have a situation where we have a finite amount of money. It seems to me a lot of the delay was caused by a change of scope, which is not anything to do with SANDAG. And I think if there is a change of scope, generally I would just say, you know what, whatever city that is, they need to deal with the increase in cost. And it shouldn't be that SANDAG, our regional money, should be allocated to that. I, again, am going to support this today because we're just way too far down the road, but I won't be doing it again. I just want to make that super clear. We come back for another, oh, there's been a change of scope and now they need more money. My answer is going to be no, no, no. And even if it's my project, it's not our regional money that should be paying for this. But, you know, again, you know, we do want people to be safe. We do want all of that. However, it should not come from our regional dollars, in my opinion, again, because we're all paying into this. It's a pot of money and we need to be very careful about it. So just kind of thinking about moving forward, very clear, want to make it sure everyone knows I won't be voting yes again. But we need to make sure that we're using all of our money in a sensible way. And I do, you know, is there a project that now, and it could be North County, that's now not being funded with this over $300,000. So you might not have an answer to this. Oh, you do? Okay. All right. That'd be great.
Okay, so the funds that were added did not come from another project. The funds come from capacity that this board approved, that we have up to a certain dollar amount in commercial paper. And so that is allowing us, we had a balance within that capacity that we're able to add to the project.
So sort of like a contingency.
Mm-hmm. We had this balance, and you said you can go up to a certain amount, and that's only within the bike ped neighborhood safety program.
And that's good to know, because, and I think honestly, we should have said that probably up front of and I didn't hear it. If you did say it, my apologies. I think it would be important when you're saying, okay, there is a higher cost. However, guess what? We've got it covered. Don't worry. It's not going to come from something else. Again, you know, back to most of the public doesn't even understand the difference of a budget and then also having a contingency. And I'm not saying it's because they don't know. We don't talk enough about it. I think everything that we're actually discussing here should be brought down to where someone from the public could go, oh, I know exactly what they're saying. I ask a lot of questions because I think it's important for people to understand. That's why I ask questions. Not necessarily, I might not know the answer as well, but I think it's also important when things seem obvious to all of us because we do this all day. Maybe other people don't. And I think it's important for us to always, you know, explain the why we're doing something and then how we're getting there. So it's good to know that we're not actually using money from a different project. That makes me feel better about voting yes. But again, if we are going to reallocate money from a different project at a later date, my answer would be no moving forward. So maybe part of the discussion up front is, hey, there's already contingency. We've got it covered. We're good. And so anyway, I just want to make those comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Pikus.
Thank you, everyone. I used to also be apoplectic when I heard figures of several $1 million per mile. And it's been explained to me at the last SANDAG retreat as to what it is. And a lot of this is not really painting a stripe on the road so much as there's actually road improvements going on. So it seems expensive, but in retrospect, it's not. My bicycling days are over. I don't have that many falls left in me, but I am a pedestrian. And I was really impressed in the presentation with your bump out intersections and your different timings because signal timing, because that really helps both bicyclists and pedestrians. And very clever ideas. So I think this is I'm in favor of this. Let's, get this done and maybe do it in other parts too. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Shin.
Thank you. I was just trying to understand for the public's sake, how much of this was due to unforeseen issues as opposed to adding scope of project?
Yeah, so be good to clarify. So there is no scope change and no scope added. They were building per plan. What the change, the impact was how it was constructed. So the approved permit plans, right, go to the contractor. They bid it based on how they see constructing it. When they had to change how it was done, it caused almost a year of delay, and about 2/3 of that is due to those traffic changes impact. The design itself, the ultimate construction isn't changing. but they had to break it from 6 phases to 12. Creating, instead of being able to construct that within a couple month time frame, you then extended it to almost a year to construct that same facility. So those are really the impacts. It's not a design change. So it's about that particular thing was roughly 2/3 of the 3 million asked, so 2 million of it. The other is, you said we had very man-made objects, which are things that come up a lot, particularly in an older community. There's stuff that isn't on the plans and the as-built. We did a lot of potholing beforehand to try to identify where those utilities are. You saw that one was roughly 6 inches into the ground, not on any plan sheets, right? And that happens in any older community, right? They don't have plan sheets and as-built like we do today. Another one is unsuitable material, right? That's also very common. You kind of hit that as you go. And the $3 million request is basically taking what we've hit so far and estimating out what we anticipate to hit in future unsuitable material. We hope that'll end up being less and we won't use all that, but it's our best guess estimate with our engineers and the contractor of what we've hit so far. So that 3 million includes both the, say, 2/3 for the traffic impacts, and the other $1 million is for the other impacts in there, including some design changes to the signal foundations.
And council member, we have applied lessons learned, not just on this project, but also with Mayor McCain, we went through growing pains. Also, same situation. We changed the sequencing in Imperial Beach to accommodate the request of the city, and we clearly understand it so that people wouldn't be severely impacted with delays. So we're working on that. We're working with City of San Diego, amending our MOU and looking at how we are coordinating. It's an ongoing process, not just with City of San Diego. Like I said, we could have also done better on the coordination with the City of Imperial Beach on another project, and on and on. Those are lessons learned. I've heard you well. You know, what are the lessons learned? Those are some that Clint and Dave are already applying. And then the unforeseen scenes, right? Things that happen that are underground that we don't know. You know, I can foresee that whenever we do Best Star Harbor, you know, that's a bundle of joy of a road that we're going to probably encounter a bunch of unsuitable material and contaminated soils and unknown utilities, just because it's an old road where there was a lot of industrial uses, similar to Imperial Avenue. So that's kind of how it goes, but we are trying to correct ourselves on best practices. I think the best area would be on even raising the level of communications, like the chairwoman mentioned, communication and coordination with the local cities as we're working on traffic controls, events, all that type of situations.
Yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing. My support for this is mostly because if we off-ramped it now, we'd be in a lot more trouble. It'd be pretty devastating. But as long as we're learning from these and not saying that this is how business is conducted, I think we can grow from this as opposed to just being kind of reckless with the funds. The goal is we'll have contingencies, but we don't want to use them. And I don't want to have the mindset of saying we have contingencies so we can use them. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Mayor Minto.
Well, thanks for all the information. And I've been here a while, and I do remember in the early days, Chris, when we used to talk about, I sat here and I talked about, are you crazy? $3 million, $5 million, $7 million for paint in the road? I don't know if anybody's been around here long enough to remember when I said those things. And those are back in the days before I learned how to ride a bike correctly. And now my bicycle rides are 30 to 50 miles at a time, believe it or not. And Chris, if we put you on the right bicycle, you too could do that. So it was very interesting to hear Paul the Bold saying something about more bike lines in East County than other places. And I think the reason why he sees that is because in East County, we get paint in the roadway. We get white lines and green hash marks and things of that nature, and we don't spend the millions and millions of dollars on a lane separation, which is actually, since I do write so much, to me that's kind of hazardous because if there's things in the road and you have to move back and forth, or something comes at you, you can't move out of that bicycle lane. You have to either fall down over that curb or separation, or you have to take whatever impact comes your way. And so to me, they're not always the safest part of the roadway. And then, back to what Rebecca said about, we promised this, so we're going to have to do it. And that goes back to our longstanding promises made, promises kept. And I too will support this because I think we did make promises and we should fulfill them. In the future, though, I got to tell you, I don't know. No offense to planners and engineers and all that, but I don't know where you come up with these ideas on how to engineer some of these roadways with bike lanes because they just don't make sense to me. And you know what, Clint, I understand very clearly about the unknown obstacles in the below ground. Is we actually have that, and I'm sure everybody else in their cities have that same thing where they start a project and next thing you know, they run into old sewers, old gas, old electricity, and everything else that you can't just take a backhoe and dig through it. You have to make sure there's nothing live in there. And so those do add time, they do add cost. So I understand that. And, but I think that, I think doing bicycle lanes are helpful if you delineate them from the street, not necessarily separate them from the street. So I like to see some different kind of engineering on those in the future that cost a lot less money. And Laura, and if it's not on the street, I don't go anywhere. So unlike you, because if you ride around town, ride out through all of our cities, and I've been through your city, I've been through Lemon Grove, San Diego, El Cajon, a lot of East County. And you know what? You know what streets are safe just because they're a little bit bigger street. They have better delineation of bicycle lanes. And that's what we really need to look at. And I don't know what good it's going to do putting all this stuff on Imperial Avenue because there's not much room there to put anything on anyways. And it's so old in an area. But I think just for the future, we have to ask better questions maybe about how this is going to affect the community, not how it's going to affect the bicycle rider.
Thank
Just a
you.
thought.
Okay, we'll move on to Mayor Morrison.
Thank you, Chair. It's been 7 years since I last sat here on the board. And before that was 21 years on this board. And we were discussing bike lanes at that time too, and still having the same kind of discussions. So everything that changes doesn't change. I'm glad to see that, talking about learned lessons on the coordination with the cities, because it's obvious there was a bad coordination here that's going to be costly. Do we need to complete the project? Yeah, we're this far down the road. We'd be stupid not to. And so that the problem is, what do we do toward the future? And one of the things is, I think that we do need to take a look at bike lanes as a whole, because I think we've kind of went somewhat crazy on some of them, and that's caused a lot of backlash. I know in our community, they put one that's a block and a half parallel to each other. They go to the exact same destination. And they put it, and it went right across a on-ramp to 805. So they took out the turn lane to go on the off-ramp, and then they put a no turn on red to go on the on-ramp. So we end up traffic backed up forever. And we finally asked why no right turn on red. And they said, well, you might hit a bike that's on the bike lane. Well, there's a red light for the bike lane too. They go, yeah, but the bikes don't like to stop for the red lights. So we got the right turn lane put back in finally, because that just didn't make any sense. And but as I say, there's some duplication. There's a lot of areas that I've seen where we put in bike lanes, and it's been on the promise that once that bike lane goes in, we're going to see decreased traffic because more people are going to be using the bike lane. And the only thing I've seen on the bike lane so far is dust. And then the public seeing that, and until we can have some actual return on investment on these things and not just promises and trying to expand everything, and then also different levels of enforcement. I heard a while ago the idea about cars hitting bikes, and I can only speak for my city. I see different newspaper articles, everything else that talks about a car hit a bike, but then I get to see the police reports. And when you see the police reports are bikes hitting cars because they're driving through stop signs. They go at red lights. They go on diagonals down the middle of a street, but it comes out being reported as car hits bike. And so there's a lot of different variables here that need to be done with this thing. And these are in the areas where they got bike lanes and dedicated bike lanes. So it's the whole thing of just doing this whole network of bike lanes. And I made mention in our city one time, I said, we don't need a bike lane on every street. And they go, well, no, we're not saying we want it on every street. And then they showed me a new proposal. And I said, well, why are we putting a bike lane here? And they said, because there's a dozen houses around in this area. And I said, well, then you're doing a bike lane for a dozen houses and taking out a lane of traffic. That doesn't make any sense. You are wanting one on every street. We really need to make sure that we are doing specific corridors. And when we're talking, I can remember back in the day when the rule of thumb was for a freeway, cost on a freeway was $1 million a mile. Now we're looking at this project here, and what's in front of us today is a little over $5.5 million a mile, and overall cost getting close to $10 million a mile. At the same time, we got congestion right next to it that's not being addressed because we don't have money to address the congestion. There's got to be a balance, but I think the coordination will do a lot to help some of that. And but otherwise, I agree with a couple of comments. The jurisdictions need to be held responsible too. If we're going to be changing the rules partway in a project that we're asking to have done, then we need to be responsible for increased costs that we are causing.
Thank you. Mayor Sanchez.
Thank you. I'm trying to imagine a freeway of cyclists. Okay. I am very supportive of this. I am very supportive of safe bicycle lanes. I grew up here. Oceanside was 40,000 people, 40,000 population wise when I graduated from high school. And before I got my Pinto runabout at 16, I rode everywhere on my bicycle, all around Oceanside. So, and now it's extremely, extremely dangerous. And we need to ensure a lot of these bicycle lanes are used as safe routes to school. We have been waiting for many years, I think the same amount of time for the Coastal Rail Trail. So supporting this, that's taking a little bit longer to complete. I'm hoping that we will also feel the love for the Coastal Rail Trail as well. And Oceanside, I think it might be the last piece of it. So yes, I'm support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Snow, our final speaker.
He's like, call a question already. I just wanted to say that this not only impacts Councilmember Moreno's district, but also Lemon Grove. One of our major thoroughfares is Lemon Grove Avenue that turns into Imperial Avenue. I also worked at the corner of Euclid and Imperial Avenue for 13 years, one of the deadliest pedestrian intersections in the entire county. And then you have Lincoln High School and another elementary school just down the street. You have the Live Well Center that passes along through here. You have the Emergent Black and Cultural Arts District that goes through there and then comes into our town. We've spent a lot of money also on doing Connect Main Street, which flows into this, taking from one trolley station in Lemon Grove to the other trolley station, which is adjacent to Imperial Avenue. And so this is a major thoroughfare that
increases safety for our children, brings economic development into our communities, particularly like connecting San Diego and Lemon Grove in a safe way, in a safe path, because the only other real big connection between San Diego and Lemon Grove is Federal Boulevard, which is an extremely dangerous commercial zone. And so this is where people come back and forth to our communities. We've done economic studies in our community, and a lot of our sales tax revenue is generated from folks coming from Southeast San Diego, and we love having them there. Sorry, Moreno, we're taking some of your business, but but we really appreciate and support this project. It's a makes sense kind of project, and it deals with roads and streets and making things, with eyes to accessibility and safety. So we're in full support of this. And with that, I would make a motion to approve the proposed fiscal year 2026 program budget amendment to downtown to Imperial Avenue Bikeway project.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. We already have a motion by Councilmember Contreras and a second by Councilmember Moreno, right? It's been a really long time. That's a good point, Supervisor. Yeah. Yeah. Lucky I wrote it down, right? Okay, please vote. Okay, that passes unanimously. All right, we're now going to move on to the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget. Mario, did you have any introduction to that?
Appreciate that, Mayor. As the team is coming with the budget, you're going to see many things in the budget, but big picture, you're going to see that we're hearing you and we're moving towards where you're asking us. There are going to be big discussions during the entire year about the different programs, about Transnet, about the opportunities of the lock boxes, but we're also trying to be focused on delivery. And in some cases, some of the things you may see in this budget, the budget is just a snapshot of the spending in the next 12 months, right? It doesn't mean it's the full funding scenario or the agency strategies. I heard the Inland Rail Trail. And if you see, we're returning ATP funds, about $11 million on that project, but we're returning it because we want to deliver that project. And that project is probably going to cost more than 60 million and overall, and the design hasn't been finalized, and yet it hasn't been fully funded, the design. So why go and ask for construction money that's gonna expire? So return those funding so that same funding agency can consider us for funding the bigger part of the project, or we go and design it in a way that we can go in tranches so it's affordable. So we're not walking away from different the commitments and those big regional projects. You'll see other projects, Otay Mesa East. It's, as we discussed on the last update, we're bringing it in. We're going for passenger vehicles, and we're trying to reduce the risk of the agency on reducing the amount of the bonding at this time in that project, and still go for that 60% of revenue, which is the PVs. So on that one, it looks, if you look at the snapshot, is we're bringing in the actual funding budget in. The federal agencies and the state agencies like that, and they're actually willing to contribute to bringing that in. So that's what you're seeing in the budget. Those are just some examples that, you may misunderstand where or it may lead you to think differently. Like I said, inland rail trails. Oh my God, you're returning money, therefore you're walking away from the project. No, we are being strategic about how we're going to deliver and being wise and positioning the agency. And that it applies in many endeavors that you all have brought up to us. We will continue bringing in to the agent, to the sport, the priorities. We talked, like Clint mentioned on the prior items, what were those priorities the board gave us as subjects. We are bundling the projects. We are looking into creating more of a grant programs in the future for bike projects. So you get the cities figure out what you want to do. But we're still going to pursue corridor improvements that are cross cities, right? So those are the different things you're going to see in this budget, but the team can go ahead and Susan, take it away.
Thank you, Mario. I think you said all of my points, so I'm just going to rip through the presentation. Good morning. I'm Susan Huntington. I'm SANDAG's Director of Financial Planning, Budgets, and Grants. On behalf of the entire SANDAG team, I'm pleased to present the proposed fiscal year 27 annual program budget and request your adoption today. This represents the culmination of months of work developed in close collaboration with our member agencies, stakeholders, and this board. Together, we have shaped a comprehensive work program that reflects regional priorities and positions us to move key initiatives forward. Today is an important milestone, and I look forward to your support in putting this plan into action. So pending board adoption today, this concludes the fiscal year 2027 budget development process. We began this effort last fall with discussions on project delivery strategies focused on how best to leverage regional funding sources to advance planning, delivery, and operations of transportation programs and projects over the next 5 years. A key emphasis throughout has been aligning funding sources with project scope, delivery phase, and timing to improve impact and efficiency. Those strategies were incorporated into the draft budget, which was presented in March to the Executive Committee, the Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee, and the full board. In addition, the Audit Committee reviewed its budget, and the Public Safety Committee reviewed the ARGIS and Criminal Justice Program budgets during their respective cycles. Following those presentations, the draft budget was distributed to our funding partners in late March, and over the last month, we have received and incorporated feedback from those agencies. The updates primarily improve transparency around funding eligibility and expand descriptions of work elements to better demonstrate compliance with performance-based planning and programming requirements. We also incorporated additional funding into the capital program reflected in the multi-year budget. Pending board adoption, the final budget will be transmitted to the Federal Highway Administration, the Federal Transit Administration, Caltrans, and our member agencies. Approval of this budget is required for federal and state agencies to obligate funds, maintain programming in the RTIP, authorize expenditures, and process reimbursements for ongoing projects. It also enables local jurisdictions and transit operators to receive their transit pass-through revenues. However, today's action is not the end of the process. It reflects the best available information at this point in time. As updated cost and revenue information becomes available, staff will return with recommended adjustments to support project delivery consistent with prior board direction on delivery strategies. So to begin, the proposed final budget increases from approximately $1.36 billion in the draft budget to about $1.46 billion in the final budget, so around $100 million. The increase is primarily driven by the capital program, and we'll walk through the specific project level changes in a later section of this presentation. In contrast, the overall work program and the operations budgets both reflect slight decreases. The Transnet revenue estimate in the final budget is unchanged from the board-approved estimate used in the draft budget, and as a result, there are no updates to pass-through allocations for local jurisdictions or the transit operators. Capital remains the largest share of the budget at 55%, or around $801 million. A significant portion of the budget is the Transnet revenue that comes into the agency as the Regional Transportation Commission. Those are the pink slices that total $496 million. Within the Transnet program, major corridor funding of 181 million supports a combination of capital projects, prior financing commitments, and debt service. Of this amount of revenue in fiscal year 27, approximately 133 million is allocated to debt service, and about 55 million supports direct project investments. Taken together, the capital program expenditures and major corridor Transnet funding represent more than 2/3 of the total SANDAG budget. Pass-through funding accounts for about 17% of the total revenues, or about $246 million. This includes the local streets and roads allocations to jurisdictions of 141 million and the transit operator allocations of 105. Additional Transnet supported programs total 69 million, including 9 million or 2% that goes to the administrative cost of the Transnet program, 9 million that goes towards the bike pedestrian neighborhood safety program, and then we also have interest income and other bond related costs, roughly 50 million. Regional operations and services total 87.5 million of the or 6% of the annual budget, and the overall work program is 77 million or just over 5%. The board budget of 1.1 million. The board budget is 1.1 million and supports governance and statutory responsibilities of the agency. So in terms of funding, more than 3/4 of funding supporting capital, OWP, and operations programs comes from the state and federal sources. These revenues are largely restricted grants, which are tied to specific projects and defined timelines, limiting flexibility in how they are used. Locally generated revenue make up a smaller but still important share of the budget. Transnet represents about 15% of internally programmed funding, with additional local sources including the Transportation Development Act funds, member agency assessments, and toll revenue. So as previously discussed in February, Transnet revenue projections were modestly revised upward in the near term, and over the next 5 years, growth is projected to average 2.5% annually. Toll revenues from SR 125 and the I-15 express lanes continue to perform well, with recent trends returning to more normalized traffic patterns. In developing the annual budget, we apply a conservative approach by relying on funding sources with a high degree of certainty. This helps ensure deliverability of committed projects and supports overall fiscal sustainability in a volatile funding environment. So I'll go through quickly our major work plans. We went through these when we presented the draft budget in March. So within the overall work program, SANDAG continues to advance key regional initiatives supporting planning, data, housing, mobility, and financial stewardship. Key efforts include implementation of the 2025 regional plan and project delivery strategies, continued investment in data science and modeling capabilities, and administration of major grant programs such as the Smart Growth Incentive Program, Access for All, and Flexible Fleets. We're also advancing planning for express lanes and major transportation corridors and continuing to fund the Youth Opportunity Pass program. On the operations side, SANDAG will continue to manage and maintain critical regional transportation assets such as the 125 toll facility and the I-15 express lanes. Service programs include the Freeway Service Patrol and the SANDAG Van Pool program, both of which support system reliability and expand commute options. The budget also sustains regional public safety and coordination functions through ARGIS and the Criminal Justice Program. And then within the capital program, significant progress will continue in fiscal year 27 on the regional priority projects, including Losan, Del Mar Bluff Stabilization, Otay Mesa East, and the Transnet Major Corridor and Regional Bikeway programs. So the next few slides that I'll go over highlight the major changes between the draft and the proposed final budget. I'll focus on the key updates at the high level, as the detailed information is included in your packet as attachment 2. That goes line by line through each project of the total amount of the project that changed between the draft and the final. And also based on board member input when we presented the draft, attachment 4 has been added to your agenda report to show a side-by-side comparison of the proposed fiscal year 27 annual budget by program with actual fiscal year 25 expenditures and estimated fiscal year 26 expenditures. So that's the table which provides additional context for how the proposed budget aligns with recent spending trends. So getting into each of the programs, the OWP decreased by 2.4 million or 3%, resulting in a total of $76.9 million for our overall work program. The primary drivers of this change include a $3.1 million decrease in the grant program expenditures due to the delay of the active transportation program call execution. So we think that we are going to continue to work on that call in fiscal year 27, but we won't be executing contracts within 27. That will most likely fall into the beginning of FY 28. There's a $720,000 decrease on the South Bay to Southeastern Bikeways project. That project, the multi-year budget hasn't changed at all. In fact, this is almost a good story in that the work is progressing much faster in the current year, and so there's less carryover to bring into FY 27. So between the draft and the final, the project manager was able to update the budget for FY 27 because more is happening now. In addition, the OWP contains the addition of 3 positions to increase organizational capacity and provide flexibility across the agency in FY 27. So these positions are tied to flexible funding and are intended to support evolving priorities, allow for overlap in key roles when needed, and strengthen areas such as internal controls, financial management, oversight, and transit-related initiatives. Within the regional operations and services budget, it decreased from 88.2 million to 87.5, a reduction of about 1% of the overall budget. Key changes include for the SR 125 toll facility, the change amount reflects increases in staffing, software, and contracted services, which are offset by a corrected estimate of budgeted debt service payments that resulted in a net decrease. The I-15 Fast Track program increased by just under 1 million, primarily driven by increases in labor cost and software licensing, IT support, and admin expenses. And then within the ARGIS program, participating user member assessments with DHS and other service contracts have been removed, and other ARGIS member assessments were also reduced. The loss in revenue will be covered by the salary and benefit savings from 1 vacant ARGIS position and a one-time minimal adjustment from the ARGIS reserve account. ARGIS will be able to continue current operations with no loss of service. Overall, these changes are relatively minor and reflect routine updates to cost, revenues, and timing rather than any significant shift in service levels or program delivery. For the capital program is where the budget increased. So for FY 27, the budget increased by 109 million. And this is primarily driven by a combination of new funding and updated project schedules, including the carry forward again of FY 26 expenditures into FY 27 for ongoing multi-year projects. Compared to the draft, the multi-year capital program increased by 80.4 million, largely due to new funding that's been added into the program. Mario made reference to this earlier on Otay Mesa East Port of Entry. The budget increased by 68 million to support continued construction, as well as funding for design and construction of the second package for Otay Mesa East. That's the northbound passenger vehicle facility. We also were able to secure congressional earmarks. An additional 12 million has been added across 5 projects currently in development. This does not represent cost increases. This is continuing to fund the projects that are ongoing. And these funds reflect strong partnership with our federal delegation in advancing regional priorities. On the Palomar grade separation, consistent with the board's delivery strategy, federal FTA funds have been allocated to fund the design and right-of-way phases. This positions the project to compete for future competitive funding. And then here is where we want to talk about the active transportation project. So also aligned with the delivery strategy, we have reassessed project readiness and timelines within our bike program. As a result, state active transportation program funding is being deallocated from 3 bikeway projects due to timing constraints and funding gaps for construction. These projects will be reevaluated and considered for future funding opportunities. On the Harbor Drive Vesta Street Bridge, $11 million in previously assumed federal Reconnecting Communities grants has been removed to reflect the uncertainty of that program moving forward. And then the proposed final budget for internal operations reflects a very small net change from the draft, with internal operations decreasing by $160,000 and the OIPA budget increasing by $5,000. These adjustments are modest and primarily reflect refinements in staffing assumptions, timing, and internal reallocations rather than any new and ongoing commitments. I'll turn it to Josh.
Thank you, Susan. We're proposing a slight increase of 5 positions across the agency, 3 of which Susan mentioned in the OWP. And all of these positions focus on audit response, improving operational efficiency, and reinforcing core functions. Regarding our compensation adjustment pool, we are recommending an increasing the compensation adjustment pool from 3% to 3.5%. This adjustment is supported by updated revenue projections and allows the agency to remain competitive in attracting and retaining talent while maintaining long-term fiscal sustainability. This level of funding is consistent with compensation growth trends across the state and local government employers and with national benchmarks reflected in the Employer Cost Index. The adjustment pool will be used to address promotions, individual salary adjustments where needed, and the remainder would be used to provide a general salary increase to employees. For reference, a general salary increase provides a uniform across-the-board percentage increase applied equally to all employees. For the position classification and salary range table, we are proposing to adjust the salary ranges in alignment with the compensation adjustment pool. It simply maintains the agency's capacity to compensate positions within the structure. It does not automatically increase employees' pay. And there are no current proposed changes to job title placement on the table. And lastly, there are no proposed changes to employee benefits at this time. And with that, we'll turn it over to the board.
Very good. Thank you. Let's go to public comments. Michael, how many do we have?
Thank you. If you're online, please raise your hand now. Chair, in person, we have 5, and then online we have 8. So we'll go to Truth, followed by Caesar.
For the record, the Zoom live stream did not show speakers at all, adding to the lack of transparency today. And Susan said limiting flexibility without as far as the funds used. And then Mario, you said SANDAG is being strategic. You know, obviously not today with transit or bike. I didn't hear anything strategic. So I'd like to see regional bikeways and toll operations defunded because both have caused nothing but problems with nothing good to show for either. I support reduction, not increase of employees and salaries by millions of dollars because today I have added more employees and departments to my fire immediately list. I mean, look at 125 toll fiasco costing well over $12 million just to begin fixing. That is staff's fault as well. Why did the travel budget increase by $700? Is that thanks to California gas prices? Has SANDAG ever lobbied the Sacramento swamp to reduce transportation costs? If not, why not? The $358,000 in faulty data science, is that 1 or 2 employees? Why does the Transportation Performance Monitoring Reporting need a $50,000 mystery consultant for regional climate data? Is that a state requirement? If not, defund it. Why does SANDAG own and operate an Aladdin Bellbon A Street property? Member assessments for DHS and Secret Service within ARGIS decreasing by $315,000. Is that every member city leaving or just SANDAG? $393,000 on art for the apparently Lemon Grove Imperial Avenue bikeway disaster is outrageous. $68 million going to Otay Mesa East, while the 52 gets a measly $4 million after sitting for years and years and years. Why is the $6.2 million San Isidro Transit Center improvements a SANDAG project and not an MTS project? Kind of like the bus stopover mystery. I would have liked to see some explanation on many of the unknown programs. Like we're just supposed to, oh yeah, just blanket approval. Like we all basically almost did today, right? I am glad to see a lot of the waste gone, but I see a lot more to go because a lot of suspicious behavior from a couple board members here.
Next is Cesar Javier. And Cesar moving on to Rafael, followed by Maria. This is item 4, the proposed program budget.
Hello, members of the board. I'm Rafael. I'm speaking on behalf of the Mid-City Community Advocacy Network. First, we'd like to thank SANDAG staff and board members who have been supportive of the Youth Opportunity Pass program. For the past years, we've seen the changes and opportunities it has brought to our community, and that is the reason why we continue to advocate for it. We are happy to know that the program could continue until 2029 and are still hopeful that one day it'll be permanent. In 2023, SANDAG released a report which we highly encourage you all to explore to see all the impacts that it had on the region as a whole. We're experiencing difficult times. Parents are afraid to take their children to school due to safety concerns. Cuts at the local and federal levels are taking away essential programs and making life more unaffordable for vulnerable communities like City Heights. That is why we ask that you continue to invest in the youth and pursue state funds that could be used for programs like this. Thank you for your time.
Next is Maria Cortez, followed by Guadalupe Rojas.
Hello. Thank you, everybody here at SANDAG. We really appreciate you keeping us with the YOP. And as you know, I have been in support with YOP for years. And I just want to say thank you for you guys taking us on. And what we are going to do, we are wanting to do is to ask also to maybe have the state support us because we want to do funding. And this way it will not only just be depending on SANDAG, but we want you to know that we are also working on other opportunities to see where we can get funding for sustaining the YOP. And also with the YOP, it brings me joy to see the kids, to see the youth using those bus passes. Not only do I see them using the bus passes, but I see them using it on the trolley. And I asked them, what are they using it for? They said they're using it to go to school. It helps them get their things that they need for school. And without receiving this, it would also put a hardship on the families. So they said that's why they use it. And then I tell them, I'm part of the one that helped get this for you. They get a surprise and they said, thank you, because you are helping our families. And also, Minto, I do want to say, I was one of those back in the day about the bicycles, and I raised my hand back there. Yes, I remember. And I got everybody beat about how long it takes for other projects. The Purple Line, 47 years. We're still waiting. But I just want to say thank you to SANDAG for what you guys are doing with the YOP.
Next is Guadalupe Rojas, followed by Consuelo online.
Hello, everyone. Guadalupe Rojas speaking on behalf of one of our youth who is unable to be here due to school. It says, hello, SANDAG board members. My name is Derek Kong, and I'm a 17-year-old resident of the city of San Diego. I am writing to express my strong support for the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget and thank the SANDAG staff and board members for including the Youth Opportunity Pass program. YOP has made a direct difference in my life over the past few years as a student. Partaking in an internship at UC San Diego, having free access to public transit has allowed me to pursue opportunities like these that I otherwise could not have reached. Using the pass, I don't have to worry about the cost of getting around, which lets me fully focus on the experience and skills I am able to gain. Without YOP, getting across San Diego's spread out city would not have been a real barrier for me and countless other students. Beyond my own experience, investing in youth transit builds lifelong riders who understand the environmental and community benefits of public transportation, including reducing traffic, cutting emissions, and accessing opportunities. I respectfully ask the board to adopt the proposed budget and continue supporting YOP. I also encourage the board to consider expanding the age eligibility from 18 to 24 so that college-age students, the majority of whom move here to study without a car, can benefit from this vital program as well. Thank you for your time.
Next is Consuelo, followed by Paul the Bold. Go ahead, Consuelo.
Okay, Consuelo here. Yep, I'm here. Okay. So we all continue to see is a system that keeps expanding debt, dependency, and centralized control, while everyday people are struggling just to survive. And the public is expected to just trust the numbers placed in front of them without asking deeper questions. Yeah, nearly half of the overall work program relying on federal funding is not stability, that is dependency. And when the federal government itself is drowning in debt, inflation, uncertainty, and political chaos, why are we continuing to build long-term regional plans on money that may never fully arrive? You cannot continue growing massive capital improvement projects while cutting areas that directly impact real human beings, seniors, disabled residents, youth, working families, and people who rely on transit and active transportation programs just to get through daily life. And those aren't abstract numbers either. Those are actual people. And this is where people need to start paying attention to the bigger picture. These regional agendas are not happening in isolation. They mirror the exact language and framework we keep seeing tied to the global planning models, public-private partnerships, unelected regional governance, and the United Nations sustainability agendas that slowly reshape how people live, move, travel, consume, and exist. Meanwhile, people are being economically squeezed from every direction: inflation, housing costs, debt, shrinking freedoms, shrinking choices, while government systems continue expanding. We are told this is all for our benefit, while quality of life declines for many residents in real time. And I ask this sincerely, how much of this budget was actually challenged and independently verified? Was waste, fraud, and redundancy truly investigated? Nope. Or are officials simply approving what they are handed because it came from staff, consultants, and agencies tied to the same system?
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Paul the Bold, followed by San Diego County Bicycle Coalition.
Paul Bold, I see you got the Fed and state contribution percentages down a bit in the overall budget. Good move. We know the president's budget doesn't look too promising for transportation or just about anyone else. Of course, it's dead on arrival, but it means a long period of waiting for budget adjustments and money to come in if what you want actually does come through. And losing the war in Iran will have a major negative impact on the economy. Brace for more inflation, more federal debt. Relying on 46% federal funding for the overall work program is probably not a good idea. The capital improvements budget, CIP, needs to be pared down. A 15.8% increase, while both regional operations and the OWP both got cuts, won't work. Probably a lot of fraud and waste in there too. Did you check or just believe what you read or were told, as Consuelo said, by the experts who aren't expert at all? Bad that Transnet Active Transportation Grant programs got cut by $3 million. A lot of real people depend on these programs: seniors, disabled, youth, unlike capital projects. Hope the $1 million removed from debt services for the SR 125 doesn't delay paying it off, by the way. A lot of the CIP additions seem to be federal money. Not wise to count on it when you need it.
Thank you, Paul. Your time has expired. Next is San Diego County Bicycle Coalition, followed by Anar Salayev.
Good morning, Chair and the SANDAG Board. My name is Ian Hembry, and I am the Advocacy and Community Manager with the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition. I support the staff recommendation to adopt the FY27 program budget. This budget provides needed funding support for a wide array of safety projects across the county. Just a few that are exciting to me personally are Bayshore Bikeway, Barrio Logan, Eastern Hillcrest Bikeways, the Inland Rail Trail Phase 3, and the Robinson Bikeway. SANDAG's bikeways are the best in the entire county. They have turned previously dangerous corridors for people walking, biking, and driving into safe paths for everyone. These are more than bike lanes. They are safe transportation corridors. Additionally, we have been tracking a huge increase in people riding their bikes this year, so our investments are paying off. Please adopt the program budget and keep moving forward on these life-saving projects. Thank you for your time.
Next is Anar Salayev, followed by Denise Lopez.
Hey, good morning, Chair and board members. My name is Anar Salayev. I am the Executive Director of Bike San Diego. Bike SC works with local San Diegans, businesses, and other stakeholders to push forward safer streets, and we want to express our support for the Early Action Program bikeway projects that are included in this proposed fiscal year 2027 budget. I want to echo my colleague Ian that some of the best bikeways in the region are built by SANDAG, and for that we are very grateful. These projects provide life-saving infrastructure for us all, not just cyclists, but all of our citizens. So keep up this momentum. We are particularly excited about the Robinson Bikeway, Bayshore Bikeway, Pacific Highway, and South Bay to Southeastern. These life-saving bikeways will go a long way in giving the citizens of San Diego County more options and more freedom to get around our beautiful region. Thank you for your time, and please support item number 4. Thank you.
Next is Denise Lopez, followed by Guthrie Leonard.
Hello, SANDAG board members. My name is Denise Lopez. I'm a resident of City Heights, and I'm here to express support for the proposed budget and thank SANDAG staff for including Youth Opportunity Program. As part of the service the agency offers and the board members who been supportive of the program, I'm glad to see YOP in the fiscal year of 2017, the budget proposal. Since this program, YOP has increased youth ridership in the past 4 years since 2022. 4 million riders have been made by youth. I have witnessed the ridership in youth increasing, the impact it has on youth to be able to attend school outside the neighborhood. This includes going to internship that opens so many doors for many opportunities they can go do outside the neighborhood. YOP removes the burden of the cost and brings opportunity for the youth to accomplish so much. As a recent graduate from UCSD, I have seen how much the joy of students using their passes for YOP, being able to go to pros and having so much. This is why I am respectfully asking the board to adopt the budget being proposed and to continue supporting this program. As a youth, I like to see this program continue, and this is why it is very important for other funding streams to be identified. Thank you for your time.
Next is Guthrie Leonard, followed by Paul Jameson.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'd like to briefly respond to Mayor Morrison's words from earlier as I think it pertains to how and why we fund bike projects. I'd just love to remind you of the network effect that I partially mentioned. If we put a large road in the middle of the desert, I don't imagine many people would use it, but if we extended it to reach San Diego and Phoenix, I think we'd call it the 8 freeway. So, back when we started building the interstate highway system in the 50s, we wanted every major region to be connected. And if we shrink that idea down to a neighborhood level, I think the same logic holds true. And now, as regards to the budget, I want to recognize 2 things. First, the mounting fiscal crisis at MTS and NCTD. We currently distribute some operating funds to them, and we talked about how that works with YOP. And I think there are more opportunities to fund their capital program to free up their flex funds. The consequences here couldn't be higher. It's taken 10 years. Well, it's taken however many years, especially since COVID, to grow our ridership back close to what it was, not 10 years. And cuts will crater that, leading to more cars and more traffic, and I know nobody wants that. So let's encourage staff to see what innovative solutions we can come up with to save our transit agencies. And lastly, I'm just a little disappointed to see us returning active transportation funds, especially when the feds are pulling funds from other projects around the country and the state is gutting the active transportation program fund. And so we're just unlikely to access funds like this for at least 3 years. That said, I trust staff's judgment, but I would love to see a real extensive research into what exactly prevented those projects from starting earlier and how we could avoid circumstances like that in the future. So thank you. I yield my time.
Next is Paul Jameson, followed by Circulate Planning and Policy.
Hi, I'm Paul Jameson. I want to express my support for both the Youth Opportunity Pass program and the Early Action Program Bikeway projects included in the FY27 budget. For YOP, whenever I take the Blue Line to UC San Diego, where I work, I personally witnessed the large number of Price School riders who pack the trolley. It's great to see young people becoming more aware that there are affordable alternatives to costly vehicle ownership. Regarding the EAP bikeways, these projects provide life-saving infrastructure for people who bike, roll, or walk. I personally use the Mead, Pershing, and 4th and 5th Avenue bikeways frequently, and it's vastly improved my and other riders' safety. I'm really grateful for those projects. Thank you. These projects improve sidewalks, intersections, and the overall safety of our streets for all road users. That's why I'm disappointed to hear board members implying that we're sort of spending all of this money just on green paint. We know that's simply not true. I was looking forward to using the Robinson Avenue and Old Town bikeways, so I was disappointed to see these removed from the budget. However, I'm excited to use the Howard and Inland Rail Trail bikeways. This investment helps create a truly connected network where more people can safely choose active transportation for everyday trips. SANDAG's made some great progress delivering these projects in recent years. Let's keep that momentum going. Thank you, and please support item 4.
And our last public comment is Circulate Planning.
Good morning. My name is Aria Grossman. I'm the policy manager at Circulate Planning and Policy, and I'm speaking to express my support for adopting the budget. I'm very supportive of the budget, that the budget would continue work on the early action program bikeway projects. I think we all want to see a city where people are healthier, happier, and safer, and expanding safe active transportation connections moves us in that direction. Benefits of these projects go way beyond bike users. They create safer paths of travel for all who use these corridors, including pedestrians, drivers, and other vulnerable road users, making travel safer for all. SANDAG bike projects have really contributed to the safety of our region. This is a very important function that SANDAG provides, and most importantly, it does save lives. As such, I'm very supportive of these projects and urge your prioritization of these projects as you move forward with implementing this budget. These projects save lives, and I think as such, they should be funded and prioritized. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Okay, so we got a choice here, board. We have how many minutes left? We have like 19 minutes left until our usual closure. We can either make a motion to extend it, or the 4 speakers on the board can be very, very precise and succinct, and we can get through this at 12:30. You think those of you who are up? Okay, all right, we're going to go for it. Ms. Maxon, you're up.
Sorry, I've been waiting a long time to speak today, but the final 2027 program budget includes $246 million of Transnet revenue. Regarding the continued absence of project planning in the unincorporated areas compared to cities, the return on investment for the tax-paying unincorporated area resident appears to be anemic at best. Certainly, this ongoing condition negatively impacts the safety as job first goal for SANDAG. The Transnet sales tax is a point of sales tax. For most unincorporated area residents, their retail dollars are spent outside of their community. For example, people in Valley Center, they shop in Escondido. Ramona, they shop in Poway and Carmel Mountain Ranch, also the city of San Diego. And Lakeside, they shop in Santee. These areas have robust commercial areas. How does SANDAG attribute these point of sale tax contributions to the unincorporated area residents for their transportation needs? We have commuter data that demonstrates that the movement of unincorporated area residents is to job centers, but how do we attribute their tax dollar money for their hometown benefit? How do we do that here? Thank you.
Within the Transnet program, there's a local streets and roads.
We can't hear you, Susan.
Sorry. So within Transnet, there's a specified Transnet local street and road improvements program. So that is money that comes into SANDAG as the Regional Transportation Commission, and then that's passed back through to all of the local jurisdictions in the county for use on their local roads. There are also grant programs that can be applied for throughout the region, and there's also the project prioritization process for our regional projects.
That didn't quite answer it, but that'll be the answer for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Contreras?
Yeah, of course, I have to speak to the Inland Rail Trail Phase 4. I'm looking at a document from May 22nd, or May 2022, that states that Phase 4 was in final design. And here it says that we're updating the revenue to fully fund the design phase. So I'm just trying to find out where we are, because there's also a clawback of the 11 million, as you stated, for the state ATP grants, but I'm wondering if we can keep that funding with updated milestones. So if you could just review that with me, because this is a very important part of the Inland Rail Trail, and it connects to a great facility that the city of Vista created on North. And I just want to make sure that folks in my district understand what this delay is and what the moving of this money is.
Yeah, and if you wish, we can work with you on this.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, and the 11 million are for construction. We are aspiring to get to 60% design and figuring out if we could do it in phases, and if not, going for the full amount. But we weren't ready. The money is going to expire. It's earmarked for construction, so it wasn't going to happen. So, and it's not 100% design. I think we're going for 60, right, Clint?
Yeah, roughly 60. So when we talk about valuing the overall program and looking at those risks, so there's $11 million in construction. We cannot move it to another phase and use that. It's a state ATP dollars that were for that phase. The project costs have gone way up from when they initially estimated that and got that money. So a combination of the cost and the time, that's where we're proposing to give that 11 million back and focus on the design. We added $1 million into the design phase for the next year to evaluate what are the next steps. So can we break it up into smaller pieces like we've talked about, so that we can recompete for those ATP funds. If we leave those funds on the project, not only they expire, but it also keeps you from competing for future ATP cycles. So this allows us to give it back, and then when we're ready with those specific patches of dollars, we can go and recompete in the next cycle.
Yeah, and just, there's who knows how much funding is going to be left in that cycle to even be able to compete. So this is a really difficult aspect. And I would look at, I know from Civic Center, moving along to the end of Vista is very challenging. There's railroad crossings and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if we've looked at going the reverse way, because there's a section along from where Beaubier turns into Oceanside Boulevard to North that's complete. And if we were to go reverse, it looks like there's less issues with having to do retaining walls and stuff like that. And so I don't know if we've taken a look at that, but it's just critical that we figure this out and get it to actually being in final design, because these documents have led the public to believe that this has already been in final design. And now we're going to lose out on 11 million plus in ATP funding that we don't know if it's going to be at the state for competition in the future to access those dollars. So it's a little heartbreaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chavez?
I'm going to be very brief because some of my questions would
Palomar grade separation was already answered, so I'm going to keep it very brief to two questions. Thank you, staff, first and foremost, for that thorough analysis, that in answering all our questions ahead of time. The overall work program includes $100,000 for the regional tolling back office for the 125 system. Can staff provide an update on the anticipated timeline for the transition to the new system and when the board can expect this item to return for an update?
Well, it's the back office. We're expecting TCA. We executed the agreement, give or take 12 months, that we go on live, right, Alex?
Yes, that's correct. We started working on it, and the go live expected date is spring of 2027, around this time.
And if you're asking an update on the 125 payoff, we're working on that. We actually had a meeting with City of Chula Vista staff, the city manager, and Dawn is looking at the call date requirements, and she's going to be coming with the rest of the team with a proposed scenario for the board for an early payoff, and we're negotiating as Caltrans is developing their project initiation document, their PIT. We are negotiating what will be the order of magnitude of state of good repair, but with the spirit of getting that moving and most probably doing a lump sum payment. I've been talking to Ann Fox about that. So you'll get more information, but your city manager said that she was very happy with what she was hearing.
We're all very happy. I just have to ask to put it on record. The overall work program includes $1 million for regional grade separation study. Can staff provide an approximate timeline for when the analysis will return to the board so we can begin contemplating next steps and evaluating potential future grade separation projects across the region?
That study will probably take about a year, but there will be points throughout where we'll be working with your staff. We're putting together a project development team so technical staff can weigh in on that, but points that will be going to the transportation committee for updates on that project.
I appreciate that. Right now, with everything going on and everything new that's coming in that's here, we're always appreciative of grade separations and what's coming. So I kept it brief. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mayor Ehlers, you're the last speaker.
Yeah, I'm batting cleanup. I'll go quickly. I've got one item. In organizations, one of the metrics I use to monitor is full-time headcount. And I noticed we're going up by 5. And so I went back and looked at the budget page 349, and it's got the history 24, 25, 26, 27, and we were down 5 from 25 to 26 and now back up 5. But though all those were up quite a few from 2024 when we were down, I don't know, I do the math, but roughly 15. So my question is, and then also in our last board meeting, we had our vacancy report, our annual vacancy report, where we ran 12%, which is not that low. It's good, but not great. And but it does say we're running about 50 openings typically. And so my question is, did staff look at reallocating, or Mario, did you look at reallocating any of our open requisitions in order to, and by the way, I should note, I 100% support full staffing of internal controls and audit. So I'm not questioning that in any manner whatsoever. No, but what I do try and do is cap the FTEs and avoid unusual growth.
Josh, you want to go first?
Thank you. So the vacant positions are reviewed on a biweekly basis with the senior leadership team and reallocated at that meeting every time. Now, we do have certain positions that are budgeted in certain areas where it's difficult to move them around. So sometimes on the like admin compared to capital, things like that. So that's where we're making those slight adjustments. But yes, we are always looking at those on a biweekly basis, and our current vacancy number is 45.
45. Okay. And I know it's difficult to move things around, but of course, when you reduce headcount in one area, it does free up dollars. Dollars are much easier to move around. So has there been a discussion about how to maintain at 432 headcount and make the additions of these auditors and internal controls?
Yeah, yes, like I said, we're looking at that, the dollars and the positions very frequently, and we're having ongoing conversations with Mario as well. Like, where can we flex and adjust to make sure it's fiscally sustainable, at the same time giving the agency what it needs to support the agency.
Mayor, the addition, in addition to add positions for like areas that are clearly needed, like internal controls, we also created flexibility in order to, as we're having the attrition rate that we are, and I'll give an example. Don, our chief financial officer, is going to retire. And the idea is to bring in the new chief financial officer and basically have two people in the position, which we cannot. So we are like creating a capacity to be able to double up for a 3-6 month period so that succession planning can occur. That's a little bit of the strategy. Now, long-term, this agency does need to attrit further down. We are looking into those numbers. Actually, Don just had a conversation of they're doing an exercise of seeing where the different transportation bills are coming to see what's the sustainable base.
Okay, I appreciate the explanation. And given the fact that we were at 437 and we're going back up to 437, but we're not going, but eventually what I just heard is there will be a float you can go down to. So I'll move approval of item 4.
Okay, Mayor Minto?
Yeah, I'm going to second the motion. I just want to say one thing, though, that we've been looking at this budget for a long time. It's a little frustrating because it's not where I think we really want it. Employee is a good example. In our city, we look 3, 5, and further out on budgets. And unfortunately, with all the things that we had happening up until Mario got here, makes it difficult for us to actually look so much further. But I think we're headed in the right direction. So today, 3-year, 5-year, I think we might be able to get there.
Thank you. Mayor Sanchez, and then we're going to vote.
I want to say that I think we've done a really great job these past year and a half, and it's reflected in the budget, and that we are moving in the right direction. And I really appreciate all staff's work and all the work that we are doing here. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will call the vote. Please use your devices. Renato's gone. Sandigo's gone. Okay, that passes unanimously. We've got 4 minutes left. We did it. This meeting is adjourned until May 22nd. Thank you all.